having parties at those times. So it's just like out of sight, out of mind. And we are live. Welcome to the NBA Deeper Dive. It is Friday, November 18th. I am Josh Engleman. I'm joined by Adam Scherer. We are brought to you by No House Advantage. We've got an 11-game slate here. I have not talked about it yet other than contenders. I'm excited to break this one down. We have just a wealth of news that's already come in. We've got a wealth of news that we're waiting on. It's kind of a fun slate, but also kind of a chore. It's going to be fun. So let's enjoy it. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Adam, congrats on yesterday.
Thanks. Yeah, would have liked it a little bit more if Reggie Jackson didn't make a couple free throws at the end. But
Noted
yeah,
scorer Reggie Jackson.
What'd you say?
Noted scorer Reggie Jackson.
Yeah, it's tough when Damian Lillard shoots 8 for 25 and Reggie Jackson shoots 7 for 12. But that's how things go sometimes.
Anthony with the super chat said, right to it, had Robinson in like 80% of my lineup somehow. Who are some of the pivots in that cheap range now? And is Wiggins available or viable? Thunder Wiggins. Not really. We are going to hit on a laundry list of potential value options, including whatever's left in Miami, whatever's happening in Denver. We've got a lot of value out there that we will be hitting on throughout this bad boy. And then Eric with the super chat and said, hit the thumbs up. I agree. Hit the thumbs up. But yeah, there's OKC Wiggins better not be necessary today.
Yeah, when I read it, I was like, well, Andrew's a different price tier and Aaron's on the part of the Thunder that I just pretend doesn't exist.
Yeah. That quote from today where it's just like, we're going to do everything and see what works.
Yeah. Yeah, obviously, even their beat writers have joked about how, there's no rotations, there's no substitution patterns. It's just guys coming in and out for each other. But yeah, we're not trying to even do that. We just want a bunch of different random shit to happen in our games.
It almost feels like they don't have a coach, but they do have a coach. Like, Dagnall's good. Their defense for what they have is insane. And you don't have a good defense with like scrap heap randomness without having a good scheme in place. But it feels like he doesn't pick the subs. They're just like, hey, whenever you're ready, man, go to the table.
Yeah, preferably if you haven't played with that guy in the last 2 games, go out when he's out there.
If you don't know who some of your teammates are because 3 weeks ago they were in the G League and you weren't, and then it's now vice versa, those are the guys that you're looking for. You ready to start this? Because the first one up is a treat.
Yeah.
All righty, guys. Here we go. Buckle up. This is where it starts. 7 o'clock tip-off. The Miami Heat are 5.5-ish point underdogs at this point, but who knows how many more people are going to get ruled out in this one. In Washington, 216 total. All right, deep breath. Time to read off the Heat's injury report for today. I might not be able to get it out without breathing again. No Tyler Hero, no Jimmy Butler, no Victor Oladipo, no Duncan Robinson, no Omar Yurtseven, no Udonis Haslem, Caleb Martin probable, Bam Adebayo essentially doubtful, Dwayne Dedmon questionable. It seems like Martin and Dedmon are playing and that Bam is not playing, which means we have 9 active bodies at this moment for Miami. Orlando Robinson has never played for Miami, so we have 8 active NBA players that have existed before today. Haywood Highsmith and Jamal Cain haven't exactly been drowning in minutes since the beginning of this season. Let's start with the real people. Martin, Lowry, Strus, Vincent. Is there really any limiting factor to you for any of those 4 guys?
No, I don't think so. I expect those guys to play a lot. You and I were talking about it earlier. And whenever we get situations like this, and you mentioned it and I agree, there's always the part of me that is just like, what if the Heat just say screw it and these guys end up playing 30 minutes and everybody they just take a loss and whatever. But I don't think you can expect that to happen, especially, Eric Spoelstra, you kind of know how he handles his rotations. When he's shorthanded, he plays his guys a bunch more minutes. And we saw that, we've seen that recently anyway. I think that the assumption basically has to be that Kyle Lowry's playing a ton. Max Strus is playing a ton. Caleb Martin and Gabe Vincent are both going to play a ton. Because the other thing is they have 9 guys. You alluded to, the fact that Robinson hasn't played in the NBA and Kane and Highsmith, rarely do. But from a positional standpoint too, they're really limited. Like Robinson's a big, Dedmon is a big. It would be weird if Dedmon's playing the 4 or something. Yeah. Jovic is I guess he's a big in a wing's body, sort of they're using him as a center.
He's a big human being,
right,
with a different skill set.
Right. Like I think they can at least use him alongside Dedmon, but
Yeah.
they're it's not like they have a bunch of backup wings out here or backup guards. They're kind of all missing. So yeah, I don't really, unless they just decide to completely punt this game, which is not the Miami MO, I don't really see a way around Lowry, Strus, Vincent, Martin playing a lot of minutes.
So the reason that I don't think that they're just going to punt this game, even though I sort of mentioned that to you in chat, just as a hypothetical, the line has moved a little bit more now, but they're still only 6.5-point dogs. There are multiple games where it's way more likely that those teams get their asses kicked compared to Miami, who was I don't know, are 65-35 to lose now. They're still super, super live in this game, and that's what's really nuts. If this were a home game for Miami, it'd be a coin flip. Wait, what happened?
Nikola Jovic is like Jokic, except a better ball handler.
I can't.
And better shooter. Better shooter and better ball handler.
Can you imagine?
Crazy that he can't crack the rotation as a better version of the MVP.
Nikola Jokic is going to go down as an inner circle first ballot Hall of Famer in the NBA. He's the reigning 2-time NBA MVP. And I don't even think it's arguable anymore. The greatest offensive big man that has ever lived. And that's our comps now. I just can't.
Yeah, anyway,
Is the comp here just because they basically have the same name? Is that what we're doing here?
Yeah, it's such a coincidence that, Jokic is one of the best players ever, and there's somebody that has his same name and is the same, except better.
It's incredible. Incredible. So yeah, for me right now, whatever Caleb Martin, Kyle Lowry, Max Strus, Gabe Vincent I get, cool.
Yeah, and in addition to the increased playing time, it's not like you're just taking, random fringe rotation pieces out of the rotation. You're taking legit usage guys with Butler, Hero already being out. We're assuming Bam's out. Since the start of last year, Lowry's at 1.05 DraftKings points per minute without Butler, Hero, or Adebayo on the floor. There's just going to be more production to go around for these guys as well.
What the hell do we do with the rest of these guys? Because the way that I have it projected right now, and I want to use the terminology that's about to come out of my mouth pretty loosely, I don't find any of them particularly interesting. But they're obviously all in some way interesting.
I think I find Jovic the most interesting. Jovic and Dedmon, because
sure.
I don't know why Dedmon didn't start last game, but he did play enough minutes off the bench that I think he's healthy enough. I think they just preferred to go with Jovic. So we know Dedmon is a quality point per minute guy, 0.9 to 1 fantasy points per minute. He's only 3,900. And then Jovic has power forward eligibility, which is obviously better than center eligibility. He's only 3,500. He also, this is just the prime spot for them to just get this guy a bunch of minutes where, he's their first round pick. He's not in the rotation because they're too good. They're too deep. They're too good. So he's not in the rotation. You have to think that they're even not punting this game. They need somebody to soak up the minutes. Why would it not be him?
You would think. I don't know what to give him though. I've started at 24. I'm going to play with it over the next 2 hours. I don't know how much higher I could reasonably go. I think 28 is probably a cap. What are you willing to do here? Minutes cap.
You don't, I think he can play more than 28. I don't think you can
project. Yeah. I don't think I can project more than 28. Right. Yeah. I see when you said project, you meant projected minutes, not, I took that as projection, and I didn't know why you were referencing
no. Yeah, I meant projected minutes.
I was I don't know, man. I've never thought about that in my life. Yeah, I don't know what to do with these guys because I think that they're anybody could win the you get to play more minutes raffle today. I think if it's just going well. If Haywood Highsmith knocks down 3 threes in the first rotation that he has, then he's probably the guy that gets the time later on. I don't know what to do with that kind of information.
Yeah, I just assume that Jovic's minutes are a little bit more of a priority for them because they probably should be.
Yeah, you would think. He doesn't project great, but it's not as if we have the best. From a point per dollar perspective, he obviously projects great. He's a $3,500 power forward on DraftKings and 4K on FanDuel. But I got him at a 0.85 rate. I don't really know what to move forward here, but For the most part, other than Orlando Robinson, I think you can justify anything for Miami.
Yeah, same page. Keep in mind it is an 11 game slate, so there's going to be a lot of other plays too. But I expect to just be getting to a lot of these Miami guys mixed and matched throughout lineups.
Okay. Yeah. I have a lot of the main four right out of the gate and a relative light amount. I mean, these types of value plays are always going to look a little bit better on DraftKings because of the point floor. Like it's going to be easier to get to Haywood Highsmith at flat 3K than it is at the flat 3,500 on FanDuel, just from a positioning thing too. But
what's your guess at the starting lineup?
Martin, Lowry, Strus, Dedmon.
You think Dedmon's starting?
Probably, right?
I mean, they went Jovic last game.
Martin, Lowry, Strus for sure. Probably at this point, it's probably like Vincent plus X. Dedmon makes the most sense in my head. Could just as easily be Jovic. I think they could not start Vincent and start Highsmith / Kane at the 4 just to have like the right sized human being out there. But
that's kind of my guess.
Yeah.
Because it also lets you keep the primary bench ball handler with the second unit without having to start staggering rotations and stuff. I'm kind of guessing, and this is why I did have Duncan Robinson starting until he was ruled out, that you get Lowry, Strus, either Highsmith or Kane, Martin, and Jovic.
Yeah. If Jovic is starting, what are you giving him? 28?
28.
Okay.
I think I'm probably just going, I guess off the bench, I'd probably go 24, 26. Okay. Like,
I have 26 right now, 20 to Dedmon. I don't really feel great about 20 to Dedmon either. But I'm running out of places to give minutes now. By the way, you know your takes are total ass when Sean V thinks you're trolling because they're so bad. You done with Miami?
Yeah.
Let's go to your Washington Wizards, where I think they can just, it's weird. It's incredible how good the Miami side of this one looks like, because no DeLon Wright, no Jordan Goodwin. I don't think that I want like a single share of anyone from Washington. I don't really have anybody projecting all that well for an 11 gamer.
Yeah, nothing that really stands out. Bradley Beal sitting at 8,200. Like, clearly that's fine, but it's fine in the context of like, I have, 6 of the best plays on the slate in my lineup, and in this particular lineup, I just happen to have Bradley Beal in there, hoping he has a big game. There's nothing that makes me think Bradley Beal's any sort of a priority on this slate. Same can be said for Porzingis. He did play 36 minutes last game, which is cool to see because he's averaging about 31 minutes per game overall this year, about 32 minutes per game over his last 10. He does still get in foul trouble sometimes, but the fact that in a game where he wasn't in foul trouble, he did play 36 minutes, they kind of cut Gafford out of the rotation. Gafford played in the first half, didn't play in the second half. I do think Gafford goes back to being the backup center here because of Goodwin being out, but just the fact that, Porzingis got the 36 minutes is good to see. I think that he's probably the first guy I would get to here. Beal and Kuzma are both fine. Maybe you see a little bit more playing time from Monte Morris with Jordan Goodwin out as well, but he hasn't been a good fantasy option this year, and there are no shortage of good plays on this slate. So there's nothing that I would prioritize here. I think Porzingis and Beal are where I would go first.
Jeff Williams with the super chat. Will you please rank the Heat players for DK Cash? Any priorities or core plays? Thanks. Gabe Vincent is probably first up. We have him currently projected for the highest amount of ownership. I have him as the best point per dollar play, but you're probably going to get to 2 or 3 of those main 4 Miami guys.
I'm kind of thinking of it more in terms of just whoever fits. Like,
yeah.
And we also need the starting lineup because just from a minute standpoint, like Gabe Vincent's a good play one way or the other. If Highsmith is starting and Vincent isn't, Highsmith obviously is going to look a lot better in terms of the minutes you can project for him. Same goes with Jovic versus Dedmon and all that. So yeah. I think whoever's starting at center, you're probably playing in cash, whether it's $3,900 Dedmon starting or $3,500 power forward Jovic starting. I assume they're going to fit, but I don't really have like true preferences. I just think that whatever fits positionally, Vincent at 4,600, like you said, probably is going to be the one that shows up first. We have him with the highest optimal percentage and the most ownership. But, Martin at 4,900 is going to look really good. I like whoever's starting at center. And then with Lowry and Strus, they look really good, but you're getting to a point where it's like, do I end up at that $6,600 price point, or am I able to get up to like John Morant, at this spot? So it kind of comes down to roster construction.
I mean, if you start running optimals, with the Heat, you're just going to get a mishmash of all of those main guys.
Yeah. Like to me, the answer is like, I don't really care. Like I just know I'm going to get to a few Miami guys. I don't care which ones they are. It's going to be whatever fits around the other really good players.
Agreed. Let's go to Charlotte now. 9.5-point dogs in Cleveland. 220 total for the Charlotte Hornets. No LaMelo Ball. No Cody Martin. Dennis Smith Jr. is doubtful. We've got a Q tag now on Gordon Hayward. That was an upgrade from earlier today. So now I have him in.
Hang on, I have a quick follow-up to that super chat.
Go for it.
I just started crunching lineups with our projections.
Yeah.
Gabe Vincent is in all of them. Caleb Martin's in like 90%. Lowry's in like 85%. Jovic is in about a quarter. Strus is in about 10 to 15%.
There we go. Do you like anything major from Charlotte? Because we don't have anybody projected in double digits in ownership. I think Terry Rozier stands out as the best option from the Hornets, but I liked him a lot more when Gordon Hayward wasn't around. Now I just sort of am indifferent. Terrible matchup against Cleveland too.
Yeah, a lot's going to depend on Hayward's status. When Greg and I did the show this morning and he was doubtful, I liked quite a bit of Charlotte because you were getting some ownership coming into Terry Rozier at 7,900. You were getting some ownership coming into $3,900 Teo Maledon. So, but then you get Hayward upgraded. So for one, if Hayward plays, those guys are still fine, but they look worse. And then two, you got Miami ruling everybody out. So relatively everybody looks worse. So if Hayward's in, I don't think there's really any priorities here. You can get to some Terry Rozier. PJ Washington's been playing big minutes. Plumlee and Oubre have too, but Hayward likely cuts into that. If Hayward's out, I think Rozier, Washington, Plumlee, Oubre, Maledon all start to look good.
You're going to want two Hornets. Cleveland's defense has done a total 180. Worst defense in NBA in the last 4 games. It's almost as if Jared Allen hasn't played for a couple games. What are we doing here, guys? What are we doing? Do you ever wonder, like, there are obviously people that watch our shows pretty regularly. Do you ever think to yourself, I wonder why they haven't soaked up any knowledge in years? Like, I remember random shit that I heard my professors say in college just from being there and hearing it. Doesn't sound like anybody ever, like, there's a lot of people in here that just aren't taking that shit in. Straight in the ear and just shotgun blasted out the other side. I don't know.
Nobody's talking about DeAndre Jordan because you can see on the left-hand side, we are quite a ways away from that game.
Yeah, happy to talk about DeAndre Jordan when we talk about Denver, but it's really weird to bring him up for the Cleveland section, which we'll go to. I don't have anything else to really say about Charlotte at this point now.
Same.
So on the Cleveland side, we've got some question marks here, particularly on Jared Allen, who may or may not have something to do with Cleveland's defense playing slightly worse over a 4-game sample. Ricky Rubio still out. Doubtful tag on Dean Wade, who's been out for the past 3 games. Otherwise, we should have everybody here. I kind of like Evan Mobley. I'm happy to play Jared Allen if he's playing today. I will never feel bad about getting Mitchell or Garland, but I don't really see any priorities on the Cleveland side either. Great match.
I like whoever's starting at center. If it's Jared Allen at 6,500, that looks good. But preferably, like, if Allen's out and you get either Mobley or Love with the power forward center eligibility. Last game, they left Lamar Stevens in the starting lineup. They went with Mobley at the 5. It's a big deal from a rebounding standpoint because Jared Allen's a good rebounder. Kevin Love is a great rebounder. If you're going to let Mobley play without either of those guys on the floor, his rebounding rates are just going to go up. He's going to be a lot more productive player. And so he would look really good to me if Allen is out. If Allen's in, Mobley's just a secondary option to me. Allen looks decent at 6,500, but anytime you're talking about these center-only guys, it's hard to say that they're true priorities just because the opportunity cost is so high. And then in the backcourt, you have Garland at 9K, you have Mitchell at 9,100, probably getting 37, 38 minutes from Mitchell, 36, 37 from Garland. Happy to get to either one, but there's some really good guard plays on this slate that I like a little bit more.
Yeah, no real it's weird that Allen is the guy that I'm most interested in, and he's the guy that I have to just be like, well, I hope he's in.
Right.
And I don't like to look into this stuff all that much, but I feel like centers have just been brutalizing the Hornets for years now, and it doesn't appear to have changed recently, but not like that changes anything for me from an actionable standpoint. Anything else for Cleveland?
No.
Well, this one's pretty easy, folks. Coming up after this, NBA Live Before Lock at 6 p.m., taking you all the way up to 7 and then some. I believe you get EMac and Greg tonight. Let me make sure I'm right. EMac and Greg, yes, it is from 6 to 7:30. So make sure you're sticking around on this stream. You don't got to go anywhere. Stay here. You'll get the goods all the way up until 7:30. Now, hit that like button for the 1,300 people that are in here. All righty. So game number 3, Milwaukee, 1.5-point dogs in Philly. This is one of the first things that I'm like really excited to talk about. It looks like Drew Holiday now probable for the Bucks, so he is back after being out for 4 straight. Good to see him back. Grayson Allen is probable. Obviously, still no Middleton, Connaughton, no Wes Matthews or Joe Ingles. Are the Milwaukee Bucks the worst possible team to roster today with Drew Holiday back?
They are definitely on the short list if they aren't, particularly DraftKings, because there you also have Giannis at 12.6, which, obviously I'm never going to tell somebody not to play Giannis, but that's a hell of a price tag on a slate where there's a really strong 9 to 11K range. And that's kind of the issue is, I've said it a lot with DraftKings pricing these guys up. You can build, especially today, there's going to be value. You can build some solid lineups, I'm sure, where you have Giannis. But in a lot of those cases, you're just going to like the lineup even more if you drop from Giannis to whoever your favorite is of SGA or John Morant or, Mitchell or Garland, whoever you prefer, and then upgrade whatever the weakest pieces of your lineup were. The lineup's just going to look really, really good. So, it's nice when you can get the highest projected guy or one of the highest projected guys at no ownership, but he's also not owned for a reason. It's not because nobody realizes how good he is.
Yeah, they look like actively bad in my sheet, which I did not expect. But, when you bring Drew back and everybody's salaries are up a couple $100 because Drew was out, that'll do it. And there's no wiggle room on Giannis anymore at 12.6.
Right. And I know I've said it a lot, but it's always scary. It always feels good to get to somebody like Giannis because you're just it's really possible that he scores 80 or 85 fantasy points tonight. But at this price, that's what you need, basically. If he goes for 65, 68, some score that, you're like, oh, see, Giannis was a good play, you're going to just be looking up at teams that played guys that were 10K and scored 62. Obviously don't know which ones it's going to be, but it's going to happen because it's an 11-game slate and there's a lot of really good players in that price range. So that's sort of the issue is at this point, yeah, he can go for 80, 85, but he's just as likely to do that as SGA is to go for 65 or, Morant is to go for 65. And so you're not really getting any advantage by going to Giannis, and you are getting worse players throughout the rest of your lineup.
I got nothing else for Milwaukee, but I definitely have something that I want to talk about from the Philadelphia 76ers, and it's a theme that I've had in the past. Let's start with the Sixers, where we do have a little bit of news that we're waiting on. There's a Q tag on Tobias Harris today. I don't know if it's going to change all that much for the 2 guys that I already like, but it's certainly going to open up some other stuff from a value perspective if he happens to be out. 7,900 on DraftKings, 7,600 on FanDuel. I'm a little confused why Tyrese Maxey's pulling no ownership today. This is a guy that just does a shit ton of stuff when James Harden isn't around.
I understand it a little bit more now that we got Miami.
Fair.
And we also have Denver. So that's kind of the issue is that the price has adjusted for Harden being out. This morning, I mentioned Maxey specifically as a pivot to Terry Rozier. Rozier was pulling 15% ownership. Maxey was pulling 3 or 4. And my argument was that they're both going to play really big minutes. They're both around the fantasy point per minute guy in their current situations. Why is Rozier getting so much more ownership than Maxey? But here now, neither one is really getting that much because in a lot of lineups, not only are you going to be allocating roster spots to, Bones Highland or Kyle Lowry or whatever other value, but then you're also going to be in a situation where you're kind of just saying, all right, well, do I go to Maxey? Or it's also just really easy for me to find $2,000 to get the SGA or whoever. And so that's kind of going to be the issue is I think that Maxey sort of just gets squeezed out by the combination of quality value and really good 9 to 10.5K guys.
I am finding him in a lot of my stuff.
I am not surprised at all.
Yeah. I have him in for a 28% usage rate. That is slightly lower than what we've seen so far in games where Harden is out and Embiid is played. 26% assist rate. I don't know what I would have to do to make him not look like a fantasy point per minute guy that plays 36 plus minutes.
No, and that's the thing. I think he is that. So 4 games this year where Harden's been out and Embiid has been in. 27% usage rate, 27% assist percentage, 0.93 DraftKings points per minute. He's probably been a little bit inefficient, and that comes up. I do think he's a fantasy point per minute guy playing 38 minutes. It's just, what's that get you on this slate?
It's a good point. I mean, my main interest is the fact that he's 3.5% owned on DraftKings and 8 on FanDuel. Like that's what's appealing to me more than anything else.
I think he's a quality tournament contrarian play. Like, I don't think the field is wrong for not having him at this, for not having more of him. I just think that he's one of those guys that fits in, like I said with Bradley Beal, where I think Bradley Beal's fine. I think Tyrese Maxey is fine. If you told me that people were like actively seeking out playing them, I would think they were making a mistake. But within a given lineup, if I'm going to have a really popular Highland and Lowry and Martin and whoever else, sure, throw in 3% Tyrese Maxey and hope that this is the game he runs into, 1.2 fantasy points per minute.
Does it change anything for you if Tobias Harris is out?
Not a ton.
Yeah.
I think you're just gonna end up getting more minutes spread out for some combination of Niang, Thibault, House, but Niang's 4,100, which it's fine, but on this particular slate, I doubt it ends up being that useful. Thibault at 3,300, House at 3,200. I'm not gonna end up being super interested in unless I get a personal guarantee from Doc Rivers that they're playing 36 minutes. So it just ends up, I expect it to be the minutes are sort of where all of those guys look better, but still don't really look like anything I'm prioritizing on this particular slate.
How you're feeling about 11-3 Joel Embiid today? About 10% owned on both sites. Looks like he should be.
Yeah, I think Embiid looks really good. I mentioned him on both DraftKings and FanDuel in my tournament plays videos earlier, but he's not surprisingly been really good without Harden. He's pulling 10% ownership on DraftKings. He's 11-3. So, he's another one. You're getting him for $1,300 less than Giannis. You do have a bit more opportunity cost because of the position, but he's averaging about 1.6 DraftKings points per minute without Harden on the floor this year. In the 4 full games he's played without Harden, he's averaged 1.87 DraftKings points per minute. That's obviously skewed by scoring over 100 fantasy points his last time out, but he has a 43% usage rate and a 34% assist percentage through those 4 games. I don't have the numbers in front of me. I'm pulling them up now, but I'm pretty sure without Harden on the floor this year, he has something like a 40% usage rate and a 24% assist percentage.
Yes.
41.9% usage, 24% assist percentage. I really like getting to Embiid here where you can.
You and me both. Do you want to get to anything else from Philly? I assume this is a question where the answer is no until we find out the Tobias Harris status. If Tobias Harris ends up out, then we're just creating value, whether that's Thibault, Niang, how someone is creating value here.
Yeah, I think Embiid's the priority here. I think Maxey is fine. If Harris is in, that is pretty much all I have to say about Philly. If Harris is out, you can throw in that Niang, Thibault, House look better, but still probably not like guys that I care about too much.
Do you assume they start Niang in that case?
They could start anybody.
Yeah. And it is Milwaukee. Thibault probably the more likely guy.
I was going to say my guess would be Thibault.
Yeah. I think Niang would be more likely if there wasn't a Giannis. Not that Matisse Thybulle has nothing for Giannis defensively. Just because you're a good defender doesn't mean you can defend Giannis. But at least he's got weak side help instincts. I got nothing else for Philly.
Me neither.
The Orlando Magic have no Cole Anthony, no Paolo Banchero, no Markelle Fultz, no John Isaac, no Mo Wagner. Wendell Carter Jr. is in, and welcome back Gary Harris to a complicated thing. I don't know what to do here. No one getting any real ownership on Orlando from the DraftKings side, 8% to Franz Wagner. Franz Wagner and Bol are both in the low teens on FanDuel. I've got a little bit more interest in Orlando here than it seems like the public does. Pricing is a lot better on FanDuel than it is on DraftKings, but I just like getting on the opposite side of Chicago. 9% owned Wendell Carter Jr. at 7K on FanDuel with the power forward eligibility. I like him in GPPs. I'm happy to get to Jalen Suggs because Jalen Suggs is the Orlando version of Dylan Brooks. He likes himself quite a bit. He's 2% owned. He's going to shoot. I'm willing to take the chances that one of those days they're just going to go in. What do you like from Orlando today?
Not much on the DraftKings side. You mentioned the pricing there, I think is pretty much correct. Wendell Carter Jr. only center eligible at 7,800. I mean, that's fine. He gets a little bit of a bump without Banchero, but that's priced in. Same goes for Franz Wagner at nearly 7K. Suggs is up over north of 6K. We saw the big bowl game last time out, but you absolutely cannot sleep on the fact that Wendell Carter did not play in that game because from a rotation standpoint, we had seen that Mo Bamba is firmly entrenched in this rotation with Banchero out. And so Bol really hasn't seen a big minutes bump without him because you've been getting Bamba playing, 20 to 22 minutes. So bringing Wendell Carter Jr. back, unless they completely change the rotation from what they did before, there's no reason to think that Bol's playing more than like 30 minutes here, and he's more likely to play 27, 28. And that's without even factoring in that we don't know exactly what they're going to do with Gary Harris. My assumption is that he just ends up replacing some of the Kevon Harris, Caleb Houston, RJ Hampton minutes, but it's Orlando. Who knows?
Yeah, the real issue for Bol, I mean, if he had the extra eligibility on FanDuel, it'd be a problem, but he's $1,200 cheaper on FanDuel than he is on DraftKings. Center only, but just $5,300. With his ability to put up stocks, like he can really just, like if it breaks correctly and he starts blocking a bunch of shit, things can climb pretty quickly for Bol. So I am a little interested in him. If they gave him that power forward, man, it would really be good. Anything else for Orlando?
No.
We go to Chicago. Chicago, not the only team, or Orlando, not the only team getting somebody back. For the Bulls today, Patrick Williams in. Kobe White is back. He has been out for a very long time. Still no Lonzo Ball. We've got Zach LaVine around 10% owned. We've got Andre Drummond as a value option today. I have a feeling you kind of want to talk about him, but if the ownership's already there, maybe it's not as interesting. Andre Drummond down to 3,800 on DK today. That is irritating to say the least. Zach LaVine, though, the only guy that's pulling any ownership from people that you expect to play real minutes. What do you do with Chicago?
Yeah, so I'm starting with Drummond. It's just a dumb price tag. It's a price where he projects a good point per dollar value. If he plays his normal minutes, he probably isn't doing anything to help you win. He's probably going to just score enough points where you can cash. But the thing is, if anything happens to Vooch ahead of him, if the bench for any reason plays more minutes, Andre Drummond does not need much more playing time to absolutely destroy that salary. Right. So on the one hand, it's nice to be like, oh, cool, 10% of the field is going to play a backup center that projects to play 16 or 17 minutes. But in 16 or 17 minutes, Drummond can realistically get into the mid-20s. And if he plays 22 minutes for any reason, there's a very good chance he's quickly turning into somebody that has to be in your lineup. So it's just a dumb price. He should never be this cheap. It makes him a good value. Zach LaVine at 7,300, Vooch at 7,100, both make some sense as well. They're both getting some ownership, just probably a little bit less expensive than they should be. Whenever you have Vooch, LaVine, and DeRozan active, they cut into their production, into each other's production a bit. But just like we've talked about with teams like Minnesota or the Pelicans when they're healthy, that doesn't mean that every single game you're just going to get 34 from Vooch and 35 from LaVine and 38 from DeRozan. You're going to have those games where DeRozan goes for 50 and then LaVine goes for 50 and then Vooch goes for 50. So it does still make them pretty appealing tournament options at relatively low ownership.
Yeah, I'm so happy that Drummond is just a $4,800 center on FanDuel and completely irrelevant to my life because that stupid $3,800 price. We had somebody in chat be like, am I missing something? Like, why is Andre Drummond the third best value? I was like, well, look at his price. That's right. It's just point per dollar. And his dollar is stupid low right now.
And it's not like we're talking about a rotation where Vooch averages 36 minutes and Drummond averages 12, and you're saying, oh, well, if he gets in foul trouble, then he'll be useful. If he just plays his normal minutes, he projects to be useful. And if he plays anything extra, you're just kind of SOL if you don't have him.
Yeah, 1.34 FanDuel points per minute so far this season for Andre Drummond. Like, it doesn't take much to just start stacking them up. And I don't know. I'm just happy that I can avoid it. Anything else for Chicago?
No.
All righty, we go to one of the more interesting games on the slate just because of the teams that are involved. The Indiana Pacers are 5-point favorites in Houston, 236 total. That is the biggest mark on today's slate. As we talk about Indiana, we have no Chris Duarte like normal, no Daniel Tice like normal. So the normal old rotation for the Indiana Pacers, at least normal over the past 3 games now that we've seen O'Shea Brissett really become a part of it. Tyrese Halliburton, Miles Turner, Jalen Smith, all about 10% owned. Halliburton is 22% owned on FanDuel, where he's 8,900. I thought that I was going to get a lot more of Indiana here against Houston because obviously it's a great spot in many different ways. I'm really not getting all that much outside of Miles Turner on FanDuel. And that's mostly because he has the power forward eligibility.
I think it's an interesting spot because it is a really good spot. There are a lot of guys on Indiana that look good. I expect to be getting a good amount of Indiana on DraftKings, but they are getting ownership. So I think they should be getting ownership. Like they're kind of like the inverse of what I was just saying with Tyrese Maxey. Like if you just told me nobody on Indiana was getting ownership, I would be like, okay, the field's making a massive mistake and I'm just going to jam them in. As is, I think the field is right. Like they should be playing them, but there's also just an abundance of other options I can play that project slightly worse, but are getting, 1/5 the ownership. So that's kind of the thing. But, still, I think Tyrese Halliburton looks very, very good at 9,200, playing around 33, 34 minutes most nights. Turner continues to look really good here. I think this is a spot where you have to keep in mind, the salary has finally jumped, but you're not just chasing points on him. He was just wildly underpriced for like 2 weeks. So now he's getting closer to being like somewhat correctly priced. The guy's usage rate is very high this year. He's producing at a high level. He's playing a lot of minutes when he's not in foul trouble. I still really like Miles Turner. Jalen Smith at 5K, pulling 11% ownership. He's extremely volatile, but when you take a step back and just look at what he does on average, over his last 10 games, he's averaging 25 and a half minutes per game. He averages about a fantasy point per minute. And that, yes, there's going to be some games where he plays 16 minutes and you're screwed, but there's also going to be other games where he plays 30 and suddenly is just destroying a 5K salary. So I think he makes sense. Isaiah Jackson is the power forward center, poor man's version of Andre Drummond at 3,900. He's been playing every minute that Miles Turner does not play. If Turner plays 32, you're getting 16 from Jackson most likely. If Turner plays 26, you're probably getting 22 from Jackson, and he's looking really good if that happens. So, just wouldn't play them together, but both look good. And then Buddy Hield only getting 5% ownership. That one to me is interesting. Like, I agree, I guess he doesn't look quite as good as those other guys, but you're still talking about somebody that could conceivably play 34 to 36 minutes and is averaging over a fantasy point per minute in a really good spot and with shooting guard small forward eligibility.
I think Buddy Hield looks better than Tyrese Halliburton on DraftKings today, but
I think it depends how you mean that.
Yeah. I think to work, but I think it's easier to work Buddy Hield into a lineup on DraftKings because of position, price. I have him projected better on a point per dollar basis, no ownership.
I agree with that. Like if I'm just looking through, if I submit my lineups and it turns out I have 50% Tyrese Halliburton, I would feel better about that than having 50% Buddy Hield. But I think that Hield does just sort of fit into lineups a little bit easier because you have more positional eligibility, and Halliburton does have a lot of guys at his same position and price point that also look really good.
Just shedding hair right now. I feel like a sheepdog. One piece of hair, but still, it is disgusting. I hate hair. I want to be bald.
I think that's completely in your control.
Yeah, but it's not a good look for me. Not that like any look is a good look for me, but that one in particular really accentuates the beak on this face.
Yeah.
Not ideal.
I can see that.
Not ideal. I have had shaved heads in the past. I used to do it all the time in college for laziness, or like be at a party. Hey, let's do a mohawk.
Right.
Not great. Anything else for Indiana?
No.
On the Houston side, big piece of news here. We're waiting on Kevin Porter Jr. He is questionable for this one. And if he's not in, there is a massive trickle down because this is a pace up matchup. This is a fast matchup. And you're just going to create a lot of free minutes and usage if KPJ ends up out. But if he is in, I think I might like him as my favorite Houston play. But he's getting ownership on DraftKings, even with the Q tag. Jalen Green is 20% owned on both sites. Şengün's about 10% owned on both sites. I'm happy to get to all three of those guys. I don't think Eric Gordon and Jabari Smith look all that bad either. I kind of just like the Houston side in general.
Yeah, so do I. The main three that you can feel good about, are the three that are getting the most ownership with Green, Porter, and Şengün. That all three of them produce well. Porter's at 1.08 DraftKings points per minute this year, 34 to 35 minutes per game. Green's at 1 fantasy point per minute, 34, 35 minutes per game. Şengün, 1.2 DraftKings points per minute, averaging 28 or 29 minutes as a starter. They all look good. But then, like you said, the price tag on Eric Gordon, he's only averaging 0.7 DraftKings points per minute this season, but he's playing around 30 minutes a night. He's in a good matchup. He's only 4K. Jabari Smith, he's been really, really bad, but the guy's still averaging 0.78 DraftKings points per minute on 44% true shooting. That is going to come up at some point. It just has to. And he's just so cheap now and not getting ownership that it makes him at least somewhat interesting as well.
Yeah, he has been just utter ass so far, but what are you going to do? sure they regret it a little bit, at least at this point. But yeah, I just like the Houston side. What do we do if Kevin Porter Jr. gets ruled out?
Play a shit ton of Houston. So going back to last season, I'm pulling up numbers where Porter was out and Christian Wood was out, but you can expect a bump in usage for Jalen Green. You can potentially expect a bump in assist percentage as well. You can expect the same for Şengün. Since the start of last year, without Porter or Wood on the floor, 1.18 DraftKings points per minute for Şengün, 24.5% usage rate, 19.3% assist percentage. For Jalen Green, 25.9% usage, 13.2% assist percentage. But this year, in a smaller sample, the rates are higher. Green, 75 minutes without Porter on the floor, 32.2% usage rate, only a 12.5% assist percentage. But the usage is really, really high. Şengün has played 71 minutes without Porter, 28% usage rate. Those guys are just going to look better. And then my guess is that you would see KJ Martin slide into the starting lineup. That's basically been who Houston goes to whenever anybody is out. They could go to Knicks, who's been the backup for Porter. They could go to Christopher. We've seen that in the past as well. But my best guess is Martin. Regardless, whoever starts ends up looking like a good value here as well.
There we go. Anything else for the Houston Rockets, which I almost called the Texans?
No.
Perfect. Well, then let's talk a little bit about No House Advantage. They are the presenting sponsor of this show, and they got a hell of a deal, and they're going to give you the best contest you could possibly enter basically every single night. If you follow the link in the description of this video and sign up, make a deposit, they'll match that deposit up to $50. And they've got the NBA 15K slam dunk going tonight. It's $15 entry, $5K to first. Right now, it's 10% full. Obviously, we lock in 90 minutes. You are going to get either significant overlay or, at the very least, minimized rake. This is going to be the best contest that you could enter in the industry. And we can make it even better for you. If you head on over to Stokastic.com, you can browse directly to our free No House Advantage projections. That'll just give you a percentage on all the player props that you'll need to select. So we might say that so-and-so is 80% to go over or 75% to go under. You can pick and choose there. Or if you want to do even less work, you can just go to our No House Advantage optimal lineups page and just take what we've already created for you. You cannot beat that whatsoever. We're talking low to no rake, if not straight overlay, a $50 deposit bonus, and all of the work done for you already at Stokastic.com. You will never find a better spot to get into a tournament. Do it right now. Head on over to No House Advantage. Game number 6. The Oklahoma City Thunder. 5.5 point dogs in Memphis. 230 total. Do I have that entered correctly? That can't be right. Do I have the wrong line? OKC. It's up to 6.5 now. Still felt really weird. Felt like Memphis should have been much bigger, but I know Oklahoma City has been playing well, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is just absolutely incredible. Go for it.
Dwayne Dedmon is out. Gabe Vincent is questionable. Are the Heat playing?
I mean, that's 7 guys then.
Yeah, I don't know what.
They are on 8 right now if Vincent doesn't play.
No, they're on. Yeah, you're right. They're on 8.
So
no, they're on 8 with Dedmon out.
They're on 8 with Dedmon out. Be ready for this, guys, because this is going to be confusing. Gabe Vincent will likely be listed as active today.
Yep.
Or some 8th person. If this breaks, like if we find out that Gabe Vincent's not going to play, you probably will still see him as active, or someone that is out be active. You have to have 8 active bodies, whether or not those active bodies are actually playing the game. So don't freak out if you see that Gabe Vincent is out, but also active. This is a very important piece here. Someone that isn't supposed to play today is going to be listed like they're playing. They're not going to play.
Yeah. So keep an eye out on exactly what the report is, because just finding out that Vincent's available doesn't do you any good. You're going to need something like Vincent's warming up, Vincent's in street clothes, Vincent's not in the building. Like,
what do we play everybody? If it's 7,
yeah.
It's just this is Memphis Grizzlies 4 years ago type shit.
Yeah, and I got my ass kicked not playing everybody that day, and I will not do that again.
The only guy that even with Dedmon out now, that Orlando Robinson, Duncan's older brother, just becomes a much more interesting option. But holy hell, Holy hell. What are you willing to go to on the main dudes then? Are you going like 40 to Kyle Lowry?
I think you kind of have to, don't you?
Yeah, I guess there's only 240 minutes to split
Yeah.
across 7 dudes.
I mean, if you're not going to like 40 on those guys, you're going to 38 on the other guys. So,
do you, off the top of your head, do you know what the average amount of minutes is for those 7 guys? Like, obviously you do.
are you asking me if I know what 240 divided by 7 is?
Yeah.
30?
It's just staggering when you think about it. It's 34 minutes. That's like pure heavy starter minutes.
Yeah.
How many Miami Heat players are you willing to play together if Gabe Vincent is not playing?
This is always tough because like
Chris Paul out.
Yeah, I saw that. It's always tough because like there's still an opportunity cost to your roster positions, but like let's
obviously
say
4. Obviously 4.
Yeah, 4 is. I'm confident that 4 is fine. So let's say, and this is if they have 7 guys.
Yeah.
So like so we're saying Vincent is out. Clearly, you're fine playing Strus, Lowry, Martin, Jovic.
Yeah.
Do I really want Hayward? But so like Highsmith is 3K. That's probably fine in that lineup. I wouldn't want to do it a ton, but it could work.
This is insanity.
And even if there's if there's 8, the fact that Gabe Vincent is one of the questionable ones too kind of changes this, or is the last questionable one, because like if there's 8, that means Vincent's in. Do I really care if I have Lowry, Strus, Vincent, Martin, Jovic in a lineup here and there together?
No, probably not.
Like I'm not just like setting it to play 5 Heat in every lineup, but I don't actually mind that much.
No. Enjoy that one, folks. Keep your eyes peeled for it. NBA Live Before Lock will also be able to help you out a little bit here because we're going to have we should have real information before that one starts. Thank God this is a 7:00 start.
What's the I know Highsmith played a bit last year. I didn't actually go back and look to see what he did from a fantasy standpoint. He's only played 28 minutes this year and has done literally nothing, but I know he played a bit more last year. 222 minutes last year, 0.58 DraftKings points per minute, 44% true shooting, 13% usage rate.
I mean, you can't project somebody much worse than that, and he still looks good.
Yeah. I think I'll probably end up in most lineups having 4, but yeah. I'm not gonna hard cap it. Like if a 5th one sneaks in here and there, I'm okay with it.
All right, back to OKC. There's Shea. I guess there's Dort and Giddey, and then there's everybody else. Talk to me about $9,900 Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. What does this guy got to do to be 10K?
Right, absolutely love him and liking him more by every time the Heat release a new injury report. It's a good price tag anyway. I had said on a show the other day that you're going to start getting to a point where you're kind of uncomfortable clicking on SGA at the salary, but that you shouldn't be because he deserves it. And you're slowly seeing it creep up. It went from 9,400 to 9,900, but the guy's averaging like 1.4 DraftKings points per minute this year, 1.5 when Giddey's not on the floor. He's averaging 35, 36 minutes per game. Knock on wood, he's the only guy on this team that they haven't screwed with his minutes yet. Probably sooner than later, but I don't know. I feel relatively safe because like it's gotta suck to be SGA right now. I would think the only saving grace is that like he can go out there and compete for awards and stuff. Like it would probably piss him off to no end if they just start, Shea's not starting the second half here because we want to see this lineup with Giddey and Lindy Waters. I think that would probably not be great for the relationship between him and the team, but so I'm, as confident as I can be just saying SGA is playing 36 minutes a night in competitive games. He's really, really productive. He looks absolutely fantastic to me.
Any Dort or Giddey, any of the non-Dort and Giddey guys, anything at all for you here?
I don't really think so. I mean, and especially so like as Miami rules guys out, SGA gets better because he's just one of the highest upside guys on the slate. Everybody else gets kind of worse because Kyle Lowry just looks better and better. So like the gap between him and Josh Giddey grows. Am I going to gamble on $5,200 Poku playing anywhere between 24 and 40 minutes when I can just lock in somebody that has to play 36 minutes at the same price?
I love that you used the low end on Poku at 24 and not 14 like it was on Wednesday,
right,
or 18 than it was this past Sunday.
Right.
He's definitely going to play between 0 and 48 in a regulation game. That's for sure. All right. On the opposite side of OKC, we have the Memphis Grizzlies. The Grizzlies do look quite interesting today because no Desmond Bane for the extended future. At least 8 games, it's looking like. We have Dylan Brooks looking incredible on FanDuel in the stupidest way possible. Jaren Jackson is back, played 25 minutes in his return. The first thing that we have to talk about here, though, is on the FanDuel side of this one. I don't know how much you've seen. Shooting guard, small forward, Dylan Brooks is $5K today.
That's insane.
Yeah. So very different play on DraftKings at 6,400, where he's like, obviously a guy you can get to in a GPP, but on FanDuel, he's one of the best plays you'll find.
Agreed. The caveat is it is still Dylan Brooks. So like it is kind of it's nuanced, and it's not like how I actually think about lineups, but in some ways, like guys like Dylan Brooks, when they're really popular, are easier to fade than when you get, the cheap, really popular center, or, that averages 1.2 DraftKings points per minute, or the guys on Miami that no matter what, some of them have to play a shit ton of minutes unless they plan on forfeiting. Guys like Dylan Brooks, like he's still scoring dependent. He is still foul prone. There are still ways for him to just disappoint, but he is also clearly underpriced and a good option there. DraftKings, like you said, much more of a tournament play. If he gets hot, he obviously is going to get opportunities, and even if that's not by design, he will take them for himself. But he's priced around where he should be on DraftKings.
What do you want to do with the rest of Memphis here? Morant and Jackson both in the teens in ownership. Brandon Clark getting some love. I don't know if that's just like spillover from the last game or what. Morant and Conchar both about 20% owned on the FanDuel side here. I'm more than happy to get to Morant. Conchar looks like a reasonable value on FanDuel at 4,500. And I have some interest in Jaren Jackson, even at the increased price on FanDuel, where he's only 9% owned, but 5,600 for Jaren Jackson, power forward center in a matchup against OKC. I gave him a couple more minutes than the 25 he played. What are you doing with Triple J?
I agree with you, and I think that $5,600 price tag on DraftKings looks really good. Yeah. This is someone that you can't go too crazy on the minutes projection because he averages 26 or 27 minutes per game thanks to his propensity to foul, but he played 25 minutes his first game back. There was plenty of opportunity for him to have played more. I don't expect that he's just going to play 25, every game going forward. I expect him to just gradually ramp up to playing more. So I think it's pretty fair to expect 26, 27 from him. Maybe you're pleasantly surprised and he plays a little bit more. But he's a good point per minute guy. You are losing Desmond Bane's usage in this starting lineup. He's 5,600 with power forward and center eligibility. I really like Jaren Jackson.
You and me both. I'm fascinated by that dude today and the price that he's carrying. Anything else for the Memphis Grizzlies that stands out to you as a priority?
Absolutely love Ja.
Yeah.
I think it's very difficult for me to choose between Ja and SGA, and I would guess that I have a lot of lineups that have both. It's really difficult to put a number on what to expect from Ja Morant because Desmond Bane has been so different this year than last year. But without Bane on the floor since the start of last year, Morant has averaged 1.5 DraftKings points per minute. This year, I believe he's at 1.6. 1.62. He has a 42.9% usage rate and a 39% assist percentage. I'm not saying I necessarily think those numbers continue, but that's Luka level involvement. And also, I had mentioned it on the show the other day that I thought there was a chance he'd play more minutes with Bane out, because one of the things that has been sort of difficult with Morant from a DFS standpoint this year is he's really, really good, but he's always at a price point around guys that average 36 or 37 minutes, and he averages 33. Last game, we did see 36 from him, and I don't think it's that surprising because of the way Memphis has run their rotations this year, where they're frequently staggering Bane and Morant. Taking Bane out makes it so Morant...
Gabe Vincent out. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, so Morant needs to play more minutes. But yeah, salary's not a thing on this slate anymore either, so it's really easy to get to Morant. I love Morant.
Yeah, it shouldn't be too hard to get to him now with Miami existing with 7 dudes. And apparently Optimal Prime doesn't think that Nikola Jokic is the greatest offensive big man ever.
That's a take.
Yeah, I don't know where you're going to go on that one, but good luck. Incredible. Well, that's a thing. Let's keep it moving. Anything else for Memphis?
7, right? And one of them has never played an NBA minute.
Correct. They have 6 guys that have ever played in the NBA today. Might see Spoelstra on the court. The Denver Nuggets, the team that has Nikola Jokic, the greatest offensive big man, not the second best big man. That would be Nikola Jovic. Denver Nuggets, 9-point dogs in Dallas, 214 total. Let's not forget Dallas, the slowest team in basketball. Denver walking wounded here. No Jamal Murray, no Nikola Jokic, doubtful tag on Ish Smith, Q tag on Aaron Gordon, which is sneaky the most important part of this one at this point. Let's start with the obvious stuff and maybe some of the non-obvious stuff. Bones Highland is 47% owned on DraftKings and Bruce Brown is 7. Can we have a conversation there? Like, do I think Bones is the better option? Yes. I feel like Bruce Brown's getting a little bit of disrespect in this one.
I agree with that. I also think Kylan's ownership probably comes down at least a little bit now that we don't have a team playing in Miami. But he's still going to be really popular. And I think he should be. He played 22 minutes, Highland, that is, last game. That was his first game back from health and safety protocols. It had been reported before the game that he wasn't going to play, that he still wasn't feeling good. Then we got the other report that he was warming up and very much going to play. But he played 22 minutes. Prior to his absence, Denver had kind of changed up their rotation. They had cut Christian Braun out of it, and Bones Highland was playing like 24 minutes. I wouldn't be surprised at all if you see several minutes more than 22 tonight. And he's really, really good from a fantasy standpoint. 29.4% usage rate, 27% assist percentage, 1.2 DraftKings points per minute. And the other nice thing is it's not like you're taking somebody like Highland and inserting him into the starting lineup with Jokic and Murray and then, acting like he's still going to have the offense run through him. You don't have Murray, you don't have Jokic. So it's just Highland playing more minutes with basically the same sort of players he already has been. I think he looks great. I still think he's one of the best plays on the slate. Bruce Brown should play a lot as well. If Aaron Gordon is out, it becomes even more obvious. But I expect that you'll get Brown starting. If Gordon's in, I think you get Brown starting in place of Murray. If Gordon's out, you probably still get Brown starting in place of Murray, Green starting in place of Gordon, and then Highland playing a bunch of minutes off the bench. You could just get Highland and Brown starting. One way or the other, I think Highland and Brown both look good. They're looking less good just because of Miami, but still, as far as non-Miami guys go, absolutely love Highland. Think that Brown at 5,400 looks good as well. So, yeah.
Are you assuming Highland starts?
No.
Okay. To me, it's Bruce Brown and DeAndre Jordan.
So my expectation, if Gordon is in, is that we get Brown, KCP, Porter, Gordon, Jordan.
Yes.
If Gordon is out, my first guess would be that we get Brown, KCP, Porter, Jeff Green, Jordan. My second guess would be Highland, KCP, Brown, Porter, Jordan.
Okay, we're on the same page there. So how many are you going like 28 for our Bones right now?
If he comes off the bench, I think I would go like 25, 26. If he starts, I would go a hell of a lot higher than that.
Okay. And Bruce Brown, 28 to 32?
I'd go higher on Brown. I think he's probably playing mid-30s.
Okay. I feel like you're not as high on Bruce Brown in comparison to Highland with that minutes gap.
I really like Bruce Brown. I just also really like Bones Highland.
Fair. I can handle that. I'm going to give him a few more minutes.
It's kind of interesting to me.
I really like Bruce Brown today.
It's interesting to me that Brown only played 22 minutes last game. I thought he was going to play a lot more there. But with Jamal Murray out, I just think he plays a lot.
Yeah. What else do you want to do with the rest of Denver here? Obviously, there's a trickle down for Aaron Gordon. I don't know how much of it matters for someone like KCP. I don't even know how much it matters for someone like MPJ, but we could have that conversation. What else?
Yeah, it's been a small sample size, but kind of surprised that MPJ's usage rate hasn't gone up more when you take Murray and Jokic off the floor. It's, Greg and I talked about it this morning. On one hand, it kind of has to, because unless Bones Highland's on the floor, like, he's not out there with high usage guys. Bruce Brown's going to be like a low, maybe mid-20s usage guy. Jeff Green's not a high usage guy. DeAndre Jordan's not a high usage guy. KCP's not. So, like, over a larger sample, MPJ's usage rate has to go up at least a bit. But the non-Bones Highland, Bruce Brown pieces here, I think just kind of start to get really pushed down by Miami. DeAndre Jordan at 3,600, for example, good value, no doubt about it. But once I plug in the Miami guys and plug in Bones Highland, I need John Morant and SGA. I don't need DeAndre Jordan.
Yep.
And that's kind of how I feel about Porter and Aaron Gordon too. Like they're guys that you certainly, if you're playing 150 lineup should be playing, but I'd be surprised if they're like in my first lineup or if they're a priority just because this slate has just so quickly turned into one where if you do not, if you don't project as like one of the best scorers or one of the best point per minute values, you kind of are tough to prioritize here.
Yeah, you just become like one of the last guy or the second to last guy into a lineup. Like
right, exactly.
6 of those spots are sort of already set in stone, randomized around the obvious. And then we go to the Dallas side where suddenly $12,700 Luka Doncic looks a little bit better on the DK end. He's $12K on FanDuel. It's Dallas. I don't have a ton of interest in this Dallas Mavericks team. Obviously, any Luka you can get to is interesting. Reggie Bullock is questionable. We have no Maxi Kleber. I do think like Dorian Finney-Smith was fixing to be an interesting value play until everything else happened. I don't have any real priorities for Dallas.
I have nothing. If you manage to get to Luka, cool. Like we're starting to get to the point where maybe you can actually play Luka plus SGA or Luka plus Morant. Yeah. Even then, a lot of times I'm going to prefer having Morant plus SGA, but it's certainly going to get easier to get to Luka. But yeah, he's the same to me as Giannis. If I get to him, I can feel good about it. It's Luka, but he's also priced where he should be.
To the Boston Celtics we go, 2.5-point favorites in New Orleans, 230 total. Boston is going to be without Marcus Smart for today. Malcolm Brogdon is back in. Brogdon pulling a little bit of love, 9% owned on the DK side. Al Horford is 21% owned on FanDuel at 5,500. That's a thing that's happening for today. We'll see where that actually ends up once all of this comes out of the wash. Have we gotten up? I'm sure we've gotten updated ownership since I've been here. Anyway. Do you have
since
any
you've been here? Yeah, not since Vincent was ruled out though.
Okay. Do you have any interest in Boston? Like other than just saying, yeah, Tatum and Brown are both really good basketball players?
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
No, like Jaylen Brown's going to be the last piece in sometimes. So is Tatum. Brogdon offers value. Like he's a pivot off of Bones Highland. I certainly prefer Bones Highland, but in an individual lineup, if you just have like the chalkiest lineup ever and you need a 5K guard, you can go to Brogdon. But yeah, it's just another team where there's good plays and they're going to be pretty low owned because they are an essentially healthy team, not a team playing with 7 people or without Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic.
I wish I had more to talk about for Boston, but like this slate has now become different to talk about than it was an hour ago.
Yeah, I mean we're in the middle of March now.
Yeah.
Actually, seven-man rotations usually wait until April.
On the Pelicans side, still have something hanging in the ether for this one. Q tag on Zion Williamson. He has not played the past 2 games. That was a back-to-back on Tuesday and Wednesday. I have him in. I have the New Orleans Pelicans as mostly uninteresting, but feel free to get shares of McCollum, Ingram, and Zion just because, but they are all lineup filler to me.
Yep. And even if Zion's out, I mean, it makes McCollum, Ingram look better, makes Jovel look a little bit better just because there's more usage there. You once again, you actually saw Jovel get to 27 minutes last game. Nance was still closing though. So you still have to deal with, that timeshare at center. But if Zion's out, the prices have adjusted at least a little bit here, and you have all these other crazy spots on the slate that it's just kind of a marginal upgrade at this point for McCollum and Ingram.
All righty. Through another one. By the way, I think I missed a super chat a while back. Let me see if I did. I can't get to it any longer. So Old Bravo Papa. Okay. Love my lineup on DK, but need the last piece, a $4,200 or below center.
$4,200 or below center. I mean, there's a lot to pick from. You have Jordan, you have Jackson, you have you have Drummond.
Yeah. Probably Jordan, right? Brandon Clark.
Yeah,
Toppin.
I think it's probably either DeAndre Jordan or Andre Drummond.
Yeah.
I might go Drummond. Like he's just better, obviously.
Yeah, that's just
like
not really
DeAndre
the place
Jordan
I'm trying to find.
Minutes. DeAndre Jordan played 26 minutes last game. He still didn't play at all in the fourth, which I didn't expect him to. I'm kind of surprised he got to 26. I was expecting like 22. I think the answer is Drummond or Jordan.
Okay. So we're done with the Pels, which means we have, here's Tyler flying in with what I assume is the super chat. Yes. Jaren Jackson Jr. or Jalen Smith. That's from Anthony.
Who or Smith?
Jaren Jackson Jr.
Wait, I heard Jaren Jackson Jr. Who was the other one?
Jalen Smith.
Oh, Jaren Jackson Jr.
You were like, who or Smith?
Yeah.
I was like, Jackson. You're like, no, yeah. I know Jackson. I was like, no, you don't.
Yeah, no, I realized it when I said it that I asked the complete backwards question.
And then Goody asked this during the Philly section, but we talked about Embiid. He said, what do we do with Embiid? Does he give us 36 or 100 tonight? Probably the middle of that.
Yeah. But no, I like Embiid and Embiid again. Embiid actually starts to look really, really good now because nothing at center is opening up for Miami. Yeah. So that's actually, I think, like interesting to think about. Like, obviously, getting to Luka is cool. He's a guard, though. Love SGA and love Morant. They are the same position as Lowry. They don't have Jovic is a power forward on DraftKings, so it's the Miami pieces aren't affecting the opportunity cost at center.
And in the worst take of all time, Drop Roses doesn't like Kyle Lowry today. I mean, it's just hilarious. Phoenix Suns, probably close to a pick 'em now. No Chris Paul in this one against Utah. I think DeAndre Ayton is actually not priced correctly. He is getting some ownership. No one else is. Feel free to get to shares of Devin Booker now with no Chris Paul. Do you have priorities from Phoenix?
No, it's just another team that has stuff that looks good. DeAndre Ayton at 6,200 hasn't played as well without Paul. He's still at a cheap price point that's pretty appealing. There are a lot of minutes here. Landry Shamet also out, and that's something that's affected their rotation. They're running a tight rotation here. You're likely to get 40-something minutes from Mikal Bridges. Devin Booker is going to play a ton. He's 9,400. Certainly gives you a massive ceiling. Cameron Payne is a point per minute guy that's likely to play into the mid-30s. I can't point to one of them and say I really like Devin Booker. There's nothing that makes him drastically different than Tyrese Halliburton, for example. I really like DeAndre Ayton. I also really like Miles Turner. I also really like other centers. So I think there are good plays from the Suns, but again, they're sort of just whatever fits into your lineup. They're not guys that I'd be starting with.
On the Utah side, I wouldn't even know where to begin to talk about any of these guys. There's not a single priority on the Jazz.
No, there's some cheap prices, and this morning I thought they looked pretty good, but it's getting pretty rough now because they all just sort of settle into that category where they're not the best point per dollar projections. They're nowhere close to the top raw scorer projections. So unless they just happen to be the last guy into a particular lineup, I don't really know how to get to them.
Make sure you're hitting that like button, folks. We got to run that number up around 500. We should be over 400 right now with 2,600 people in here. We have couple more minutes left in the show. 2 games to go. We're probably going to run a little long. Sorry to the Live Before Lock crew. Don't think they're going to be all that mad. New York Knicks, 7.5 point dogs in Golden State. 235 total. I thought the Knicks looked kind of sneaky earlier today. Now they just sort of look really similar. Barrett, Reddish, quickly getting around 10 to 15% ownership on sort of both sites. There's Randall out there for you. Jalen Brunson out there for you. Feel free to get to any starters. Do you have a priority coming from the New York Knicks?
No, I do think they're a really interesting late slate team. They have changed up their rotation over the last couple of games. They're not playing Quentin Grimes. They're not playing Evan Fournier. As a result, you're getting huge minutes, not only from Cam Reddish at a cheap price tag, but Emmanuel Quickley's playing more minutes. Last game, you actually got a closing lineup with Randall and Toppin alongside each other. You could certainly see that lineup run a bit more against Golden State, where they're closing with either Draymond Green or Kevon Looney at center. So I do think from a rotation standpoint, this is an interesting team to take some shots on. It's just that the way this slate has broken down, I still can't really do anything with the information, but on the late slate, I do think it's an interesting team to be getting to because I do think that, you can project Quickly and Toppin and Reddish a little bit more comfortably than you could a couple weeks ago or a week ago.
This is the 34-minute Isaiah Hartenstein game today, right?
Yep.
Where you clearly don't have this dude.
Yeah, and that's another one. I can't get to him on the main slate, but on the pay attention to his ownership if you're playing the night slate, because this is still a really volatile piece. Chances are he's playing mid-20s, based on everything we've seen now as a starter, but there's some chance he plays a lot more. And if he's going to be 4% owned or something, can win you a tournament.
Wow. Okay. On the Golden State side, other than knowing that Steve Kerr is not very happy with this team at this particular moment, Everybody that's normally around is around for Golden State. Steph is 10-6 on DK. Looks better than he did before this show started. Clay is 5,800, 15% owned on DK. I like Clay and probably Draymond the most of anybody on the FanDuel side, but Steph is just climbing by default right now. He just doesn't look as good as some of the other guys that play his position.
Yeah. Did you see? Do you know what I'm hesitating for?
I don't even want to know.
Did you see the super chat?
The Orlando Robinson blurb on Fantasy Cruncher?
Yeah.
I mean, I hadn't looked at it. I just figured it was like something stupid, or it was like Duncan Robinson's.
So I think it's just confused with Duncan Robinson, but it says that Orlando Robinson is out.
Yeah. Yeah. It's Duncan Robinson's hand is the injury for Duncan Robinson. Yeah. I think that's the same thing.
That's what I was thinking too, because I didn't know what Duncan Robinson had done. I did.
Although managers who have Kristaps Porzingis rostered maybe in for a big night is an interesting sentence to close that out. Because that would not be a meaningful sentence for Duncan Robinson. But I also don't think this is relevant.
The Heat were already without Dwayne Dedmon. He was ruled out after Duncan Robinson.
Yes. Yeah, I just think that's wrong.
I mean, yeah, I think it's wrong because I would have seen it somewhere other than Fantasy Cruncher by now.
I actually think they wouldn't play.
I mean, I just like search Twitter and nothing's coming up.
Look, it'd be some real wild shit if both guys named Robinson injured their hands today. I'm just ignoring it for right now. Yeah, I don't think it's relevant. Did you say anything about Golden State?
No. Steph Curry, just throw him into the mix of really good, really high upside guards that I want to be playing. Their starters are playing more minutes. He's playing at a really high level this year, averaging around 1.5 fantasy points per minute. He looks great. Everything else on this team this morning, it was sort of just, oh yeah, maybe I'll get to a little bit of Clay, a little bit of Wiggins, a little bit of Green. Most of that now, I think, just becomes essentially useless.
Avi says, I love Poole because Thompson seems like he's going to have his role reduced based on news. Am I making that up? Yes. Klay Thompson is not having his role reduced for anything. Yeah, that's not happening. Anything else for Golden State?
No. To answer Don Barb's in chat, Caleb Martin is in.
Final game, late night hammer. Pistons, 7-point dogs in LA, 225 total. For Detroit, no Cade Cunningham, no Isaiah Stewart. Corey Joseph is questionable. I wanted to talk a little bit longer about this one. We are up against it here, but we do have a little bit of time. I have Jaden Ivey projected like 1,000,000 points ahead of everybody else in this industry based on what his usage rate and assist rate have been with no Cade Cunningham on the floor. I don't really know how to change that. I think Jaden Ivey is like my favorite play of the day, and no one's getting there at either 6,400 or 7K on FanDuel. When I say favorite play of the day, that was a take that I would have had like an hour and 15 minutes
I was going to say, like, how? Like, I get it. He's averaging 1.1 DraftKings points per minute. He's got a 32.5% usage rate, 28.9% assist percentage. I think he's got a nice ceiling. I think so do Boyan and Bay. I also think this team just became like infinitely harder to get to. But Ivy is the first one I would go to. Like, he has so many opportunities when he's on the floor, and it is a nice spot against the Lakers. I would get to Ivy first, and then Bogdanovich, Bay, Bagley, who's down to 4,700 on DraftKings. Dealt with foul trouble yesterday, was clearly in line to play around 30 minutes. All of those guys are interesting. They're just not as interesting as they were at 5 p.m.
I'm with you. Bagley, 5,700 on FanDuel, power forward center, a little bit less interesting there. Happy to get to a little bit of Hayes too, but he looks less interesting now that we have all of this news. I'm team Ivy. Like I'm so far ahead on a per minute basis that I don't even really know what to do with that sort of information. I am almost 0.17 on a per minute basis ahead of the aggregate of the industry for today on him. He's like at a fantasy point per minute for everywhere else. And that's just like not what he has been with Cade off.
Yeah, Gabe Vincent, quote unquote, available.
As we figured. Told you guys.
I actually thought it would be Bam, but yeah.
For the Lakers, as we close this one out before we send it over to the Live Before Lock crew, Dennis Schroeder is off the injury report. Thomas Bryant off the injury report. Q tag on Braun. AD is in. If we've got all of these guys, you go into anything from the Lakers?
Probably not. I mean, LeBron at 10K looks fine. Davis is center only on DraftKings now, so that's pretty tough. I can't imagine doing anything other than those than one of them.
Now, I thought we might get like a flat min Schroeder or something, and he becomes like this weird thing that they just throw back out there, but I don't have anything here. I can't imagine waiting it out. So I'm sure LeBron's going to have 90 against the Pistons to just really screw shit up today. I don't care about the Lakers.
Nope.
You wanted to get out of here and go try to figure out Miami?
I do. I didn't even realize that Orlando Robinson was in the player pool until right now.
NBA Live before. Wait, he wasn't?
He wasn't like last time they played.
Oh, okay, gotcha. NBA Live before lock coming up next. Stay right here on this stream. It's going to be a good one. EMac and Greg taking you all the way up to 7 and then some. Good luck, everybody. We'll talk to you later.
All right, Stokastic, here we go. It's your old pal EMac, the rare daily double, the rare live before lock on a weekday. I am joined by Greg Ehrenberg. I am the captain now. What's going on, Greg? How I hear you may have to go outside if Twitter goes away. I was confused by these chats. You have wildebeests outside your house, I heard.
Yeah, squirrels. Those things are scary. You ever see those things are gigantic and they're getting ready for winter. They could beat you up. Yeah. So, by the way, Twitter actually, I don't think is going anywhere. It's kind of fun to troll about it, but to me, I think the whole thing is kind of, I think the whole thing is a little bit of a work. You know, there's certainly some turnover going on with change in ownership, but if you ask me if I was to if I actually had to bet and say, you know, what are the odds of it's like 99.9% chance it's staying. I very highly doubt it's going anywhere.
I don't think it'll go anywhere. There could be some service glitches. That wouldn't be a surprise, sure, especially if something crazy happens news-wise. But if they can limp through the weekend and figure out who's working, who's not working, who are they going to beg to come back, I don't think it'll be. I don't think it's going away. So
no, and no, what is going away though is all of the players on the Miami Heat today. None of them are here.
This is absolutely wild because when I was talking with Gunn doing No House Advantage show, of course they're bringing us tonight's show as well. When I was talking with him, I made a joke about Spoelstra potentially playing because we were talking about Kristaps Porzingis basically being able to do whatever he wanted under the basket, and we were discussing Bradley Beal's over under on points versus Porzingis and potential game flow and all of that. That was when they had 9 players. They have 6 and a ceremonial I'm going to be wearing a uniform guy. Has the dust settled yet at this point?
Yeah, so so you have to have at least 8 players active to field an NBA team. The Heat do not have 8 healthy players today though. So they have 7 and Gabe Vincent. So people might get tripped up by this because Gabe Vincent was ruled active, but it's only so that the Miami Heat don't have to forfeit tonight. So Gabe Vincent is going to be active. He will play 0 minutes, and the only reason he's active is because the NBA rules say you have to have at least 8 players active. Now, I don't know what this means if 2 players were to, if multiple guys were to foul out or get into foul trouble. Like, I don't know what ends up happening.
So actually, I think I know this one.
Okay.
And I don't remember if this is a college rule or if this is a pro rule. But once you've fouled out and there's nobody left, whenever you get another foul, it goes as a technical and the other team gets the ball. I think that's what happens.
But what I mean from the perspective of Gabe Vincent is hurt and can't play, but he's active. Right. They have to put him in while he's hurt.
No. I think they would. Well, maybe, and then he'd go right back out with injury, and then they'd be like, "All right, we're stuck." Would be my guess. I don't know. We could see it in play. What are the odds of the Wizards lose tonight? As a shell-shocked Wizards fan who couldn't believe they lost to the Thunder 2 nights ago.
Thunder aren't bad though.
No, they're good. But I thought when they weren't playing SGA towards the beginning of the fourth quarter, I thought they were just going to kind of, this game's a little too close. We're going to make sure we lose. Have they given up? I don't say given up. Will they just accept that they probably should just make the play-in game and not, because they have so many draft picks, not tank this year? Or are we going to see somebody shut down? And then we'll get into all the fun. But look, we got 49 minutes till lock. The only game locking is Washington and Miami. Then we have 2 7:30 games, and then the rest of the slate doesn't get going until 8 o'clock. So we have plenty of time. As my camera just shifted on me there, I'll get that.
I like you're pretending it's the camera that moved and it wasn't you hitting the camera.
Well, it was not me hitting the camera. It was me hitting the cord down by my foot where it's connected.
Now you're like Jim Carrey and Ace Ventura, getting up to the camera and moving it around and whatnot. But by the way, just to tie a betting angle into this, because you asked what are the odds that the Wizards lose today. So I'm just plugging in what the VIG it would be. It's about 27% chance they lose today. If I just plugged in like the BetMGM,
what is
big free
is
odds.
their spread still? I bet them at 6.5 about an hour ago at minus 6.5.
7.5.
Okay, so that it didn't really change much. I don't have the Greg Ehrenberg timing here on this. I missed out on your football chance, and we're going to bring this full circle because what we're talking about is betting. The Stokastic betting Discord channels are a lot of fun. Someone like me just getting into sports wagering here, learning all the different things. I think I finally have the teaser thing figured out, sort of, but not really. But I'm working into all this different stuff. But I enjoy getting to chat with you and Eitan and Eric in your various channels, and Gajeski and Lofty's in there with his channel, and of course Ben Raza and All Things College with Matt. So this is a lot of fun. But you guys have all been patient answering questions with me and a lot of other new players there. It's been a lot of fun. You guys can get in there and get a week free of access to these guys. There's always someone posting a bet. Usually his name's Ehrenberg Scherer, who posts a bet about every 5 minutes, but it's fun. You just get to trail these guys, right? It's a good time. And then whenever weird news happens, Greg's always like, the future of this player on the comeback player of the year is now going to shift because the butterfly flapped his wings over here. You get ahead of this stuff all the time. So it's pretty cool. But give us a little shout out there on the Discord. I'm going to open my other channels and then we're going to get going here on the slate.
Yeah, and by the way, what's going to be most important about this slate, because we just talked about, what are the odds of the Wizards actually losing this game? Well, the reason we bring that up and what we said before is, well, the Heat essentially have 7 active players. They 8 officially. There's only going to be 7 that play minutes. As a result, this team is impossible to not get a shit ton of. So I've got my initial runs built here, and it is just all of my most rostered players coming from this Miami Heat team, and I do not really have any issue with that whatsoever. It's unavoidable. The most expensive player on the team is Kyle Lowry, and he's at $6,600, and at least for DK purposes, running my lineups for FanDuel at the same time as well, and I'll see what ends up coming up over there. But it's going to be so much exposure to this first game of the slate, and then it's kind of a weird scenario where I'm not even going to have that many spots available to late swap because so many of my lineups are going to already be filled with guys from the Heat. And I know we're going to get a question of what is the most amount of Heat players that I'm willing to play in a lineup. I honestly don't mind getting to 4 on FanDuel or 5 on DraftKings because they're so cheap. I think it's viable for this slate.
This is the rare one. The only other time I remember anything quite like this was, it usually is the Memphis Grizzlies of all teams. And I remember like 2017 or 18, they basically played a game with 7 people. Who was the guy that fought Derek Fisher? Matt Barnes was in the league, right? Matt Barnes?
Yeah, something like
that. Was in the league forever. He got his first career triple-double in like year 16 or whatever it was, in a game where they literally played 7 people. And every year DK sends out hey, here was your best lineup ever. And it was like 400 points for people. And everybody had people on that game. They were down to the absolute dregs in that game. Tonight might be worse than that. This is play everybody in this one because you're going to be able to build unique lineups. I think our discussion might be, hey, who are these high-end players that we really want to talk about? Because there's different answers when you look at Luka Doncic. We have some good guard options here. We also have SGA up at the top. You've got Giannis is on the slate tonight. Of course, Joel Embiid. No Jokic tonight, but all of a sudden now we got to start talking about Embiid. Normally there's a ton of point per dollar players. But tonight, it's going to change things up, and lineup construction is going to be key in how you can work in these different Miami players into different constructions that are going to get away from some of the obvious chalk ones. So if you look and say, okay, well, I'm going to play, Ja, and I'm going to play, I don't know, SGA or somebody like that. It's like a lot of people are going to do that. So you may want to go one like mid-tier out of the blue guy, or 2 real, oh my God, I'm really stretching it here, and go with the super other punt somewhere else and just build the equivalent of a super team and hope the Miami guys are able to cobble together 0.7 fantasy points per minute in unfettered minutes tonight that will get you there. But that's an interesting one. Who do you like at the tippy top here? I think this is a different approach when I'm making this up on the fly, a live production meeting here with you, Greg. But does this elevate Embiid for you at all? Does this go with a forward? We've got plenty of guard options. How does this reposition things? Because a lot of content today was more focused on those guards than it was Embiid and any of the power forwards.
Sure. So one thing actually, because this correlates to, we just got a question in the Discord channel where it was from.
And I see the super chat, so we'll hit those next.
Okay, yeah. So somebody in Discord said it was about, where'd it go? It was somebody asked about spend ups. It was, here it was, Mr. Moneybags. He said, with all the Heat value available, I'm able to pay up for Luka and Joel. Is this a good idea for DK GPP? Yeah, so typically it's really hard to fit guys that are that expensive into the same lineups. I will say that my preference for the slate in terms of pay up options is Joel Embiid. There is a lot of value at the guard spots. There's a lot of value at the forward spots. usually it's a little prohibitive trying to jam in a bunch of centers. And I typically will end up getting to more of players who are point guard, shooting guard eligible, power forward, small forward eligible. But because so much of the value that's come out on the Heat is at the forward and the guard spot, I'm actually finding it more favorable to pay up at center. So Joel Embiid is my most rostered pay up option for today. And by the way, we just got news that Kevin Porter Jr. will not play tonight.
Okay. We've got a bunch of stuff to circle back. So let me do this. Let me move some stuff. I'm going to screenshot a few of these super chats because I see they're coming in fast and furious here. So what do you think the other options are to counter those that are going to be smart and savvy enough? I don't know if smart's the right word, but savvy enough to go the Joel Embiid route. What other center, like a DeAndre Ayton, et cetera, that you think could at least be a reasonable facsimile of him?
Nobody
on a point per dollar basis, of course.
Yeah. So for me, I'm playing a lot of Joel Embiid. So it's going to be hard for me to tell people like, hey, try to pivot off of Joel Embiid. He's my most rostered pay up option today. So I do have more. I'm not more. I have exposure to other guys in the center position for sure. You know, DeAndre Ayton, Anthony Davis, I think also has a chance to be playing without LeBron, which makes him somewhat interesting as well. But to me, by far, Joel Embiid is the best center option today and is going to be the one who I get the most exposure to. And once again, just not difficult to pay up for him tonight.
All righty. I've got 4 super chats lined up here. So first one here is from Scorched Earth. Says, such an underrated duo. I assume they're still talking about us, Greg, not the other show. Those evil,
yes,
those evil corporate fools. Yes. Great to see you guys. Question on FanDuel single entry, GPP, Conchar and Porzingis, or Miles Turner and Dylan Brooks.
So let me look at what the updated ownership is. Earlier in the day, I mean, there was never a point where I thought Dylan Brooks projected poorly on a point per dollar basis, but I thought he was so crazy over-owned earlier in the day where he was projected for like 40% ownership on FanDuel. And that number's come down quite a bit now to 22%. And that'll happen when all the Miami value opened up. But what, can you read me the two parts again?
Yes. Let me make it a little larger so I can read it as well. Complimenting us for being an underrated duo.
That's
and then FanDuel, like, we got to mention that again. FanDuel single entry GPP, John Conchar and Kristaps Porzingis, or Miles Turner and Dylan Brooks.
That is Miles Turner and Dylan Brooks for me.
All right. Does Turner still have, he still has power forward eligibility over there, right? I haven't looked at FanDuel in a little while.
Yes, Turner's center and power forward.
Okay. Excellent. Kind of building on that, Jorge Jacome is saying, does Porzingis look more interesting now that Miami won't have a good center to match him?
Yeah, so it's definitely, it's always hard to really weigh what the difference makes in terms of a projection when the other team's players are out, because, you know, typically if you guys have any kind of familiarity with any kind of projection models, when you're making any kind of inputs for teams, you're putting in minutes and you're trying to figure out what rates are going to be for one side of the team. You don't often think about how the other side of the team is impacted when players are out. And usually it's something that in the large picture doesn't really matter. For this particular instance, yeah, it matters. Bam Adebayo's out, Jimmy Butler's out, everybody's out for the Heat. They have a really shitty defense. So Kristaps Porzingis, it stands to reason that any kind of adjustments that are being made for the matchup he has are probably incorrect. It's probably immeasurable how bad the Heat's defense could be in this spot. So yes, I do think it definitely helps Kristaps Porzingis. He's a good tournament play.
All right. James T says, do you like Jalen Green over Halliburton if KPJ does not play? I believe you mentioned he was ruled out.
Yes. So it was
Green and Halliburton. Do you like Green over Halliburton?
I would still. So points per dollar, I'd rather have Jalen Green, but just in terms of who scores more fantasy points, if it's a 1v1, it's Halliburton.
All righty. Eric Traub, Team Eric here, 2v2, Embiid who the hell is Orlando Robinson?
He's one of the only men left for the Miami Heat. He's one of the 7 players today.
Any relation to Orlando Woolrich? So, all right,
probably not, EMac.
Joel Embiid and Orlando Robinson, or Ja Morant and Drummond.
Oh, it's the Orlando Robinson side.
I think it has to be. That team will end up having 5 Heat The other one will have 4 DK single entry. As Greg mentioned, don't cap the Heat at this point. This is the tipping point where that rule doesn't matter.
It's also because the players are so shitty in general, where like, even if the game was to be a blowout, so we wouldn't see Kyle Lowry play in garbage time, but we would see guys like Kane, Orlando Robinson, Jovic. Those guys would be out on the court and probably play like 40 minutes, even a blowout scenario. And they're so cheap that it's not hard to envision a scenario where they're, multiple guys are getting to 25, 30 fantasy points.
All right. Hank the Tank says, can we get this corny old dad off the show? I'm not even supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be drinking beer. Feels so good. Feels so good on the lips right there. Right there.
How do you know? Wait. How do you know he's talking about you and not me? What made you think that?
Oh, that's a good point. Other than the gray hair, the massive amounts of gray. Wait, the not dark hair anymore. I sent Greg a picture of what I an article that I was in like 15 years ago. Now I had some like dark hair. I forgot I looked like that. So not the same guy I wave to in the mirror every morning. Not the same guy.
Is that a weird feeling when you get old?
It is a little bit. Seeing photos of some of my high school friends out doing elk hunting and deer hunting and stuff like that back in Washington State. I look at them and I'm like, oh my God, they look just like their dads. I'm like, oh shit, they're my age. I look like my dad looked when we were all in high school. So that part feels a little weird. And then you start thinking about who's not here and how much time you have left and all that. So we don't like to think about that. Let's think about Twitter's demise or something more productive, perhaps. But yes.
I didn't mean to give you some sort of existential life crisis there, EMac, but
now I'm all sad. I'm feeling verklempt now, Craig. Geez, what are we doing here?
By the way, not even close to the oldest person I had to deal with today. My dad fell for like a telemarketer scam for the millionth time today, and he calls and he's telling me this story. He's like, you're not going to believe it. They had like, they found some dividends that weren't paid out in my mom's stock portfolio. She died like 3 years ago. She's like, he's like, they told me it's worth 240,000. I was like, Dad, stop. It's not real. He goes, no, I think this one's real. I said, it's not real. They asked for your social security number. He goes, no, they didn't. They asked for my mom's social security number. So he's paused. So I'm like, yeah, it's not real. But of course he fell for it. And now there's gonna be somebody voting for some president in my grandma's name.
Oh, goodness gracious. So another super chat here from John Good. He says, I am playing a ton of Heat already. Is it crazy to pivot to Jalen Green away from Lowry with Kyle Porter Jr. out? So
now that we just got Kevin Porter Jr. out, I love getting to Jalen Green now that Kevin Porter Jr. is out. And now rerunning my lineups, I'm going to end up with more Jalen Green exposure than Kyle Lowry. But Jalen Green, let me pull up his rates this year with Kevin Porter Jr. off the court. So a couple things are going to happen to Jalen Green. First of all, he already loves to shoot. If he touches the ball, there's a pretty good chance he's shooting. And there just are not very many playmakers on this team. And now we're getting to this point where you're taking Kevin Porter Jr. off. It means the ball is going to be in Jalen Green's hands more. Jalen Green touches the ball. He doesn't know how to pass. He only knows how to shoot. So it's going to be a lot of shots going his way. And pulling up the rate stats for him this year. Yeah, so a 34% usage rate this year for Jalen Green in the minutes he's played without Kevin Porter Jr. He's going to take a lot of shots.
How did you end up getting the value you wanted on your Jalen Green scoring 25 points or averaging 25 points on the season? I tried to look for that bet on DK. I couldn't find it when you had posted it. And then I started wondering, I don't know if I get season long bets for whatever reason in Virginia. But I know you were looking at that one. Did you get it in? What was the number and how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, I was fairly high on Jalen Green coming into the year. So it was over under for points opened at DraftKings. I think the over-under was 19.5, and that seemed very low to me at the time. And I still think that was a very low number. And then I had a bunch of like his alternate lines where it was like, I think 16, I don't even remember what it was, maybe like 16 to 1 from to average 25 or more points and like 7 to 1 from to average 23 or more. So now, do I think he's going to for sure average 25? No, but I think it was good value I got on it. And more importantly for today's slate, he is now my second most rostered player behind Jovic.
All right. Jarrett Allen is in. He was recovering from a non-COVID related illness. Lamar Stevens is starting. I don't think we have that full starting lineup yet, but Karis LeVert will be coming off the bench. That looks to be the news that just cracked the old ticker in the last couple minutes. Let's see what we have over here. EMac, you're a treasure, like a fine wine, as they say. Oh, I like that one. I don't drink wine, but I'll be compared to a fine wine. That's a good one there. The older the music, the older the violin, the sweeter the music, I believe is what they say. So we'll have to test that one out later. You know, a little Netflix and chill on a Friday night. Sorry, was that a little too much personal information there? But there we are. All right, the Heat is just dominating news. I guess we should just run a scroll. Yes, you can play 5 Heat in any format on DK, and you can play 4 in any format on FanDuel. Yeah. Don't feel bad about it tonight. This is going to be the one slate of the year or the 2 slates of the year where we're going to say that. A lot of the other times where we're doing different things, it's just there's not enough people out, or it's the wrong people who are out, or there's still enough high caliber talent that you really don't want to overload it. In this case, if we say everybody's getting 0.7 fantasy points per minute, which is a reasonable expectation, and they're all going to play around 32 minutes, that's going to work out to reasonable stuff. And then somebody can pop off if we get there. Okay. What was, somebody asked one other. What are the odds of, this was from Malakar. What are the odds of Bam Adebayo actually 0%. Setting foot on the court?
0.
He's just out.
He's out. He's not playing.
When they have this many people out, this is where you just take a schedule loss. At this point, there's no reason to push anybody who wasn't really planning on playing on that one. KS with the super chat here says, let's give him a little more detailed thoughts on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Tyrese Halliburton. You kind of hit on those a little bit a few minutes ago, but these are going to be among those up in that rare air that we now have access to. Halliburton in particular, that people may not have gone to earlier in the day before we got this crazy amount of bargain bin ballers.
Yeah, so he wants to know, what is it, just
thoughts, not comparing it one against each other, but Halliburton seeing a ton of minutes lately. The assists have been outstanding. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he's averaging 10 more fantasy points than he was last year. He's averaging about around 50 per game. He's just absolutely awesome. That's the easy analysis. Do you want to give more nuanced stuff? Because I know you are one of the many analysts here that we have that crawl through all of the game flow box scores and understand rotations and different matchups. So your insight would be welcomed.
Yeah, I mean, for both of them, they've played really well this year. Their minutes are fairly secure. We have this salary to pay up for them. So I am getting to a little bit more Halliburton than SGA now, but I'm a little bit overweight to both of them. And I'm overweight to a lot of the pay up options because I'm overweight to the value plays as well. So in turn, it's where do you spend that excess salary? It's on the high end guys. And for me, that is, just to read off the spend up options that I'm getting a good amount of exposure to today. It's Joel Embiid, Tyrese Halliburton, Steph Curry. If we're considering Kristaps Porzingis, he is in that bucket as well. And SGA, Luka. Those are the high end guys that I'm kind of rotating through with the value pieces.
All righty. Your every 10-minute announcement. Yes, you can play as many Heat as possible. Do not worry about the format or the site. Mikey B, if you have another question, we can answer that. Fair question. It's the demanding topic of the day. But if you want to throw in another question, we'll try to catch that. Greg, what is the difference between snowmen and snow women?
Is this a riddle or is this a dad joke?
This is a joke from chat.
I don't know. You're going to have to tell me.
Snowballs.
There we go. Very, very, very clever, whoever came up with that.
How can you tell when a kid joke becomes a dad joke?
I don't know. Tell me, Mac.
When it's apparent.
Another one really, really clever. Really, I can't tell who's more amused by this. It's myself or Tyler.
That's terrible.
Tyler moved further away from the camera when you delivered that.
If it was Jordan, he would be hitting his head on the desk at this point. So, all right, let's take a peek here. Dennis Smith Jr. is still doubtful. Gordon Hayward is questionable. LaMelo Ball out. We know that Jared Allen is going to play here. We did get a Miami starting lineup. So Jared Allen is in. Nikola Jovic starting along with Haywood Highsmith. We're making up names at this point, right?
No, I mean these are the guys out there we've got. And by the way, so in terms of the value option now, in terms of the punt guys for Miami, I'd say Jovic is the highest priority. Haywood Highsmith second, Jamal Cain third, and Orlando Robinson third. I mean, fourth. I said two guys third. Jamal Cain third, Orlando Robinson fourth.
Oh, and now my dog's coming in to say hello. Great. This is a family.
That looked like a ghost from my vantage point. And I know Tyler thought the same because he is typically not sober producing those shows. He 100% thought that was a ghost.
We'll let her say hello.
I thought EMac was getting abducted right there, Greg. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, it's all over live on stream. Clip it.
Are we if somebody appeared behind EMac with a knife, are we obligated to give him a heads up? What's the protocol?
I think it'd be good TV. You got to see how it plays out, right?
Your dog is very cute, by the way.
Yeah, she will be turning 12 in January. So
wow.
She's had some good runs here. We've had a lot of fun together. She's been around about as long as DFS has, so she's usually up with me when I'm watching my teams try to make it up to the top of the leaderboard. All right, so you mentioned out the Miami folks. How are you feeling about anybody? Who else is standing out? So we talked about some of the high end folks. Give us a little diatribe here on Luka Doncic. Also having a career year, Giannis Antetokounmpo, his minutes have been down a little bit over the last 5 games, that kind of to a more sustainable rate. Yeah, she wants to go out, so there we go. And those would be the two pairs. They're the two extreme super duper stars that we haven't really talked about.
Yeah. So, sorry, could you just recap? So, what's the question?
Hit the high notes on Luka and Giannis.
Yeah. So for me, I prioritize Embiid over both those guys. So one thing about this slate is a lot of the value comes at guard and forward. And contrary to most slates, we don't have as much value at the center positions compared to the other spots. So that's why I prefer spending up at center more than I typically would on a lot of these slates. As far as Luka and Giannis go, they're both really expensive. It's not too difficult to get to them with the amount of value that's opened up. But I have other guys I'm prioritizing more. Embiid, like I said, number 1 overall for me. And then still other guys that I end up getting to more than them. Steph Curry, SGA, Halliburton, and then Luka and Giannis. Once again, not unplayable guys, but players that aren't as high priorities for me. And something that does cut into Giannis at least a little bit is that Jrue Holiday is back tonight.
All right. I don't know if this is a troll or not, but Eric Traub, since he sends in a lot of super chats under his name, under other names, he's a really good DFS player here. He says, who are the 2 Heat that would sit in the case of a blowout? None of them?
No, it would be, I know what you mean. So they have 7 active players. If they were down by 30 points in the fourth quarter, who would be the 2 on the bench? I think that's a reasonable question.
And they go the full on Portland, what they did the last game or a couple years ago, the last game where they just played literally 6 guys total.
Yeah. So if
one for 12 minutes,
all 7 of the guys who are active are going to play minutes. I have no doubt about that. But what's the closing lineup in a 30-point game? I would assume it is. So here's what's weird about this.
Who's the point guard? How do you sit Lowry?
Yeah, I just assume still, but they probably just run Caleb Martin at point. They just go like Martin, Jovic, Hayward, Highsmith, Jamal Cain, Orlando Robinson. They're already if at that point they're already down by 30 points. Who gives a shit what position guys are? You just leave Lowry and Strus on the bench because they're generally the 2 biggest parts of the rotation.
Yes, you're correct. Sorry, Eric, I did not mean to besmirch your actually good question there, Team Eric. Alrighty, we are brought to you by No House Advantage. Not to fair, we're going to talk about them in a second, but I also want to mention BetMGM. We have a nice offer here with BetMGM That'll get you that's right, 2 free months of Stokastic Premium if you are a new user to BetMGM. All you got to do is create a Stokastic account. If you don't already have one, you just have a free account. It doesn't have to be an active subscription. When you log in and you see the BetMGM button, click on that, then sign up, create your BetMGM account. All you got to do is make your first wager. It needs to be at least $10. Once it settles, win or lose, you're going to get 2 free months of Stokastic Premium. That's pretty awesome. But wait, there's more. You can actually do up to $1,000 risk-free bet with your first bet. If you win, congratulations, friend. You've got a whole bunch of money. In the event you lose, you will get a series of free bets courtesy of BetMGM in the amount of whatever you have wagered. You can go click on the link below us here. It'll tell you the different details about that. But just know you'll get a bunch of free bets to help you get back in the green. Do you have any standout wagers tonight? I know you like to do a lot of bets and such. Anything that popped for you that you wanted to throw out for the maybe not all the goods, because you do have your own betting Discord channel, but throw out a few that you're noticing right now.
Yeah. So let me make sure that it's still up. But yeah. So Michael Porter Jr. over 17.5 points. I don't think that Aaron Gordon is going to play today. And I think that despite the terrible game that Michael Porter Jr. had the other day, where it was really one of the worst games he's had in his entire career, this is a really good opportunity for him. Jokic was out last game. He was super popular and did not come through that game. But Jamal Murray is also out tonight. There's potential for Aaron Gordon to not play. You start to look at the Denver roster and just start to say, like, who is going to take shots? And to me, it's Bones Highland and it's Michael Porter Jr. And I also think that Michael Porter Jr. kind of everywhere is not being projected for enough minutes. So last game, he was terrible. The minutes weren't there either, but I think it's because he sucked so hard. They were just like, okay, we can't justify playing this guy big minutes. But the last time that the Denver Nuggets played in a competitive game, he played 36 minutes. So what happened is last game he sucked. He only played 28. The game before, it was a 23-point blowout, so he only played 24 minutes. The game before that, it was a 19-point blowout. He only played 25 minutes. The game before was competitive. He played 36 minutes. So I think that we're probably going to get 34 to 36 minutes from Michael Porter Jr. And I would expect a fairly high usage rate as well. So over 17.5 points for Michael Porter Jr. He's also a contrarian play I like for DFS.
Yeah, he's also averaging just over 7 3 attempts per game, and he's making just over 3. So if you can look at some of his 3-point wagers, some same game parlay stuff here, that's some good information to file away as well. All righty, let's see what else we have here. I've got all my college basketball lineups in. That's the nice thing about having all these Stokastic projections, because they do all the heavy lifting for you. Combine that with Fantasy Cruncher, and it's all good. You guys see there's so many different ways we can get you into Stokastic. I just told you how you could get 2 free months. But for those of you that don't have sports wagering in your state, you can check out 3 days of NBA free. You got to be a new user Stokastic, but you do get all access to everything NBA. That would be the DFS projections, the ownership, the 1v1 tools, the lineup generators, the top stacks tools. All you got to do is just look in the link in the description below us here in the YouTube description. Click on that link and you can sign up for an account that would get you access to all NBA for 3 days free.
Chris Paul just rolled out, by the way.
Everybody's kind of appropriately priced, I think, for him to be out. He's going on 10 days now. I mean, it's been 6 games, I think. Any thoughts on Cameron Payne, Devin Booker? They're kind of, I guess, late slate at this point, showdown. they're kind of getting lost in the shuffle on the main slate. But how does that have any impact that you'd like to discuss?
No,
continuation of impact.
Chris Paul's been out for a little while. They've already been priced for. I just wanted to point out that he's officially out.
Is there anybody you're terrified that you're not going to get to tonight? Who's the step off the curb and get hit by a cement truck player that you're worried about as you're starting to do different crunches with your lineups? If we have 19 minutes until tip off.
Let me refresh ownership and see where that is right now, because I could then see from there if there's anybody who I'm way different on the most recent run of ownership. Most of these guys that I like, I think Jovic is a really good play. Lowry's a really good play. I'm getting to these guys. Who am I not getting to? So I guess the most popular play that I'm not really getting to all that much is Devin Booker. It's just I can't play all of the guards. I have Halliburton and SGA both projected better than him. Not necessarily terrified of that. Maybe John Morant. I don't really have a ton of, and we know Morant's ceiling, but there's nothing I'm really concerned. Like to me, I feel like I have the right decisions in my lineups.
If you were building out showdown lineups for the first game, that would be the Heat Wizard, God. Obviously. Is it Kyle Lowry? Does he land in the top spot for you, or Kristaps Porzingis? Those are the two that seem to me are coming up as the reasonable options. Slightly distant would be Kyle Kuzma and Bradley Beal, in my opinion.
I could tell. Well, let me see who I've projected for them, because I assume the price is not an issue.
Price is never an issue, and I just ran some crunches on those. You can get around 250 points. DK style. Yeah, that's like about 30 points more than even the best track meet of a game you're ever going to see on showdowns.
So it'd be Porzingis.
Would be your number one. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. No stone unturned, because there are all sorts of games and formats out there. Jeff Williams with a super chat. With Kevin Porter Jr. out this evening, is it better to play Green with Michael Porter Jr. or Ivy? So the question is, would you prefer Green and either Michael Porter Jr. and Ivy, or SGA and a cheap Heat player?
Or so it would be for me.
It's the mid-tier versus stars and scrubs, yeah.
So SGA, and then it has to be somebody who's the flat man. So it can't be Jovic. It has to be somebody who's the flat man.
I can see if there was qualifier on that. Anybody who is, it says a 3K Heat player.
Okay. So it would be, so if it is if it could be anybody in the 3K range, it's Jovic. If it's one of the flat min guys, then Haywood Highsmith. And my answer would be, depending how much salary you have left, SGA and Jovic. If you don't have the space for Jovic, then it's SGA and Haywood Highsmith.
Excellent. All righty. Thuggin says Highwood and Embiid, or Anthony Davis and Bones Highland. Yahoo. It's a little brain teaser there for you.
Read me those names one more time.
Highwood, Embiid, Anthony Davis, and Bones Highland.
That is the Embiid combination.
All righty. Terry Rozier. Thoughts on Terry? I don't think we've talked about Scary Terry.
He is somebody who made sense earlier in the day, and he's just a victim of much better value becoming available. And it's not hard to pay from Terry Rozier up to the likes of Halliburton, up to the likes of SGA, who project way better than him. So just better values opened up. It's hard for me to get to him at this point.
All right. How many are you doing? 150, or are you doing more lineups tonight?
No. I'm playing. So for today, because I knew this was going to be a stupid slate, I'm just playing 20 lineups on DraftKings. I'm all set and ready to go. I've got it uploaded now.
Nice. Do you think Drew Holiday comes back?
Yeah, he's
Drew. Fine. Okay. This is his first game back, though, correct?
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be any kind of real restrictions for him. Not that I expect him to go play 38 minutes or anything like that. But
his last 4 games before he got hurt, he was 34, 30, 29, 29. So that seems about right.
Yeah, I mean, I think he'll be close-ish to full minutes.
All righty. Let's see what else we got going on. And we'll talk a little no house advantage here. If Harris sits, Tobias, that is, does that make Embiid in line for more minutes? I don't think it impacts Embiid. Maybe a few more rebounds, shot attempts, but I don't think it's going to impact his minutes.
Yeah, Embiid's already such a good play for me that I can't really get to too much more of him. But it's to me, it would be, a slight boost to his projection, but he's already doing everything for this team. So he's, to me, already the best pay up option.
All right. Gordon Hayward will be playing tonight, returning from a shoulder injury. He has not played since the 4th, so he's been out for 2 weeks. I'm glad he's healthy now. That's about all I can say. Oh, other than hit the like button. That's always important. Oh, I love when the news comes out about players for Saturday. It's going to be a lot of fun. Going to be a lot
We
of
got
fun.
we got some questions in the Discord channel.
Can you run through a couple? Let me just upload my
Yeah,
lineups.
while you're uploading, I'll answer some questions from the Discord channel. So first, Pawnage Method, he wants to know, how do we feel about Haywood Highsmith? So of the 3K guys on the Heat, since he's starting, he's my favorite, Haywood Highsmith. I have him in, let's see, what did I end up with Haywood Highsmith? He is in 40% of my lineups. I think he's a really good punt option.
One other question we didn't ever get to, and I've seen it pop up a couple times. What is your percentages on the Heat players? Like, are you doing 40%, 50%, unfettered, knowing that you're doing 20? But if you were doing 150, do you have a 70%?
Oh, I don't. Whatever. If there's somebody who projects really well for me, and I run my lineups and I get to 90% of them, I wouldn't care.
Okay.
I don't think you need it. Especially the value plays are so good. I'm not going to say I don't want to get Heat players just to play other guys in certain lineups, because then to me, I'm just playing additional lineups to play worse plays. Like, I think the Heat is by far the best value team of the slate. And honestly, this might be the best value situation of the entire year on any one team.
Okay.
The next question we have here is from Sniffs1234. What about a rule for Orlando and Jovic, or the salary is just so low it doesn't matter? Salary so low it just doesn't matter. As far as Orlando Robinson goes, I do prefer Haywood Highsmith, but still, if you have them in the same lineup, it is more than reasonable to think they score 25, 30 fantasy points each, and they could both be in an optimal lineup. No issue there. Late Night Hammer wants to know, how are you getting different on FanDuel? Miami feels like 3 to 4 free squares. That feels like a lot of similar construction. So yeah, I think playing a lot of Heat players totally makes sense. There are some contrarian plays I like overall across DraftKings and FanDuel. My favorite contrarian play is Michael Porter Jr. He's currently projected for 6% ownership on DraftKings and also 6% on FanDuel. The price is low, $5,900 on DK, $6,200 on FanDuel. I do not expect Aaron Gordon to play later. I do think the Michael Porter Jr. is going to get all the minutes he could handle. I saw people earlier say that he's old, he's a bad back. Well, the last time he played decently and the game was not a blowout, he played 36 minutes. That's what I think is probably the expectation for him if this game is competitive. Now, could the game be a blowout? Sure, because any game could be a blowout. Dallas is missing Jokic. They're missing Jamal Murray. But if the game stays close, I think we're looking at mid-30s minutes for Michael Porter Jr. And I think pretty hefty usage.
All right, I'm going to download and upload, and then we're going to talk about the overlay that's sitting there on No House Advantage. You want to do 1 or 2 more questions, and I will be good to go here.
Zion Williamson was just ruled out.
I don't think that's really going to move anything. Does sort of help some of the props for the players. I think that's probably baked in already to their numbers, but we were looking at No House Advantage on CJ McCollum's assists. He was over 4.5 was his line. We were projecting him for about 6.5. Yeah. And let me download this, and then we will talk some more No House Advantage. Any other questions here?
Yeah, I just saw we got a couple super chats that came in, and then also other questions from the Discord channel. Dancing Elephant, Bridges, Ivy, or Porter Jr. That is Michael Porter Jr. amongst those names for me. And then there was another question here from Jets World. With Kevin Porter Jr. out, is it better to play Green and he also super chatted us. So we answered that one. And then Stephen Leibowitz wants to know, with all the value, is leaving a few hundred on the table something to worry about? No, totally okay with leaving salary on the table. Really, at any point in time. Now, if you're leaving $1,000 salary on the table, probably problematic on an 11-game NBA slate. But yeah, I have lineups today, the $300, $400, $500 left on the table, and that's not an issue for me whatsoever. There are guys from the Heat that are min price that are going to project better than players who are priced $700, $800 more expensive for them. It's just going to lead to situations where you're going to get better projected lineups that are leaving a few $100s on the table.
The only time where I don't, and I'll set mine at 4,900 for like football and baseball and basketball and hockey. I don't for college. And I especially don't for college showdown basketball, because you're going to get to better lineups and functions. Trust the projections, especially when they're coming from Matt Gajewski here. Don't set floors on those. Embrace the variance of crazy people that are $3,000 that you have no idea who they are, and they're going to play 25 minutes and get 25 fantasy points. NBA a little bit different, more projectable. Things tend to be a little more stable. News is out there. You can usually find someone that's going to have a median projection that's better and just makes more sense, even from an ownership perspective, rather than punting off $1,000 or $2,000 just to be different. Showdown slates not included.
So by the way, with Zion out, CJ McCollum, Brandon Ingram both do look a little bit better, but there are so many good pay up options on the slate that it's not going to make any kind of real massive difference in my lineups.
All righty. I forgot I did it. Let me do a quick one quick Yahoo lineup. I'll even say what our best Yahoo lineup is, since I'm quickly putting mine in. I love to play those on Fridays, Greg, because it's the game within the game. You get the full season contest there, and I am actually a decent chance I'm going to get some cash out of that. Kyle Lowry, Max Strus, obviously, Caleb Martin, Nikola Jokic, Bones Highland, Ja Morant, Joel Embiid, and then from there it looks like you might want to go with one of the Houston players. So that's the what we're doing there.
By the way, we got a message from Lippy in the Discord channel. He said, "Is it crazy to fade the Heat today?" If
Yes.
there is not a Heat player in GVP winning line today, I would be floored. It is, it's crazy to fade the Heat.
Better question. Will today be the first day in the history of DFS that someone wins a tournament without a player in the late game? I've been told it's not possible by YouTube chat.
Well, I think it's going to have a lot of early players from the Heat game.
What are the currently winnings going to look like for people right off the? Well, there's going to be so many players. It's an interesting thought exercise, though.
Couple super chats that came in. This one is from Guillaume Blias. Jalen Green. I absolutely just butchered that name. I like how I tried to direct the super chats just to look like an idiot trying to read the guy's name. So I'm not going to make you try to read that one after I got that wrong. I assume he's French Canadian because he tipped us in Canadian money. Jalen Green.
Mon Dieu.
Yeah.
Bon ami.
Jalen Green.
That's all I got.
Yeah, that's more than I know. Jalen Green and Luka Doncic, or Devin Booker and SGA. That's a tough one. I'm going to say Jalen Green and Luka Doncic, because of those four players, Jalen Green is definitely my favorite on this slate. Andrew Kang, sup guys, FanDuel single entry, Highland and Dort, or Jalen Green and Hardaway Jr. I do not think there's a need to play Lou Dort or Tim Hardaway Jr. on this slate. I like Jalen Green more than Bones Highland now, but I like both. But either way, I like Bones Highland. I like Jalen Green. I don't like Lou Dort or Tim Hardaway Jr. If I had to pick one, I guess I would go Green Hardaway, but I think you should rebuild a little there.
All right, we are going for a hot minute here, talk some No House Advantage. We got 5 minutes to get those lineups up there. If you're playing No House Advantage, get on over there. We have 460 out of 1,200 in this contest right now. It is 40% full. That is going to be some definite overlay there as everybody scrambles. Keep in mind, don't mass multi-enter this unless you're going to build out your lineups, because there is no late swap on No House Advantage. Everything locks when the contest locks. That's why you generally don't want to play injured players. Don't get cute and play the Heat players who are out. If they don't set foot on the court, you get a 0 for that. A 0 for what? Well, not just fantasy points. What we do is we take 10 of their 200 plus question props, if you will, that are out there. We choose an over or under, put a confidence ranking on them, 10 through 1 in this particular contest. If you are correct on getting the over or under on the question you select or the player prop you select, you get those points. Those points are added together. That's how you compete against other gamers. Coming through the link below us here, you get up to a $50 deposit match with your first deposit. And there is just overlay there all the time. They also have their own lineup builder over there. I was playing around with that the other day. You can go in and kind of select some players or some props that you like. You're kind of making, for lack of a better term, a wagering term, Greg, a round robin, if you will, of the different items that you want. And then you can export that from their site into those contests. So what they're trying to do is get advantages to you to have some fun. They also have us providing free projections coming out of our Stokastic models. We also build out optimal lineups for you. You can find those under the NBA tab. Highlight that, look for the No House Advantage tab, and you're going to get free projections. So that's available for anybody. Look at that. We're going to give you a $50 deposit match and give you free projections to go play on No House Advantage, where tonight they're basically paying out 2 to 1 on their prize pool compared to how many people are going to enter that. That's a sweet deal. You guys will be falling all over yourself to get that on DK or FanDuel. You're getting that most every night on No House Advantage. They also run single game contests. They run main slate NFL 1 o'clock games, 4:00 games and also island game contests that are fun. They usually go down to 7 questions for the island games just because there's not as many things to choose for. They have college football. They've got college football, NFL, NBA, obviously, PGA, and I'm missing one, hockey there. So a lot of fun. Oh, and World Cup's coming as well because, World Cup. All right, 3 minutes to go here, Greg. That was a super quick hour. I feel like we've talked a lot of Miami Heat today for some reason.
Well, that's where a lot of my exposure is. By the way, while you were doing the promo there, we got word that KJ Martin is going to be starting for the Heat for the Rockets in place of Kevin Porter Jr. So he is somebody who I did not have exposure to that I do now, because I now think that KJ Martin is somebody who's probably going to play mid to upper 20 minutes. He's a pretty good fantasy producer. And because this news came out when it did, I don't think that he is going to be all that popular.
All right. I see Sotex says, don't we have an extra 30 minutes? Yes. If you don't want to play the Heat Washington game, the next 2 games tip off at 7:30. We're going to stay until 7:30. We'll talk about the versus the house contest here on No House Advantage. We've got 2 minutes to go. Strus or Caleb Martin. I'd still lean towards Martin. Don't worry about that Q tag. Your thoughts?
I have a lot of exposure to both of them. I have one more lineup with Caleb Martin than Max Strus, so I'll make that as my tiebreaker if it has to be one or the other. But you can't go wrong. They're both a really good plays.
I have way too much of both.
I don't think there's such thing today.
It's anytime I capped everybody at 90, and I got 90% of all the Heat players. So there's my tiebreaker. I'm sorry. Jovic ended up at 90, Caleb Martin at 89%. This is DK. Lowry at 77, Strus at 50, Orlando Robinson at 38. Non-Heat players, Bones Highland comes in at number 5 at 40%. Jalen Green comes in at number 6 at 40%. Michael Porter Jr. at 8, 34%. John Morant, 31%. And Shai Gilgeous-Alexander rounding out my top 10 at 25%. I did not hear the word Doncic or Giannis. Did I get to either of them? I got 4% Doncic. I got 0 Giannis. Them's the breaks.
My most roster players by position. The guards that I'm getting to the most are Bones Highland, Jalen Green.
Oops, found my phone case that I was looking for.
The forwards I'm getting to the most are Jovic, Strus, Caleb Martin, and Michael Porter Jr. And the center I got to the most was Joel Embiid.
All righty. For those of you hearing our voice now, we are probably at lock to answer the question. I saw some people putting in there. Dog's name is Jovi, as in John Bon Jovi, but Jovi with an E on the end because my wife said that makes it more girly. So that's her name. So there we go. We call her Little J is usually what I call her, Little J, or Buddy. I don't know why I call her Buddy, but I do.
I mean, Jovi with an I, that seems kind of like a girly name, does it not?
We don't ask these types of questions, Greg. When you get married, you just smile, nod, and with an approving nod. Just say, that's a good idea, sweetie.
I mean, I understand because it's you pick and choose the battles, and this is one that's very insignificant and literally makes no difference. The dog's name is the same either way, but I mean, Jovi still sounds like a lady's name to me.
Yes, potentially. Smile and nod, though, Greg. Smile and nod. All right, let's talk about versus the house. So for those of you why is my site down for me?
By the way, Tobias Harris was just ruled out. So we already liked Joel Embiid and still very much like Joel Embiid, but he was my number 1 overall pay-up option. Still number 1 overall, but a really good spot for him without Tobias Harris in the starting lineup. It is Daniel House who is starting in place of him. By the way, here's something that happens.
Real quick.
Yeah.
Tyrese Maxey, no house advantage, 22.5 points. I think we definitely want the over now. Good chance that he's going to be chucking a couple extra threes because Tobias Harris is out, and we know that Milwaukee tends to pack the paint a little bit more. So I think that's a reasonable option.
There we go. I like that. I think that's good tie-in with the sponsor as well, NHA. And do they have any other Sixers props up there?
Oh, you can check real quick. So if Tyler if he's able to get to know house advantage, you go to the versus the house page. You can actually click on sort and filter, then click on the game. It will list all players in the game. But we do have Joel Embiid, 31.5 points.
Okay.
Feels a little aggressive, but doable.
So for just because I am location banned from NHA being in New Jersey, so I can't.
Yeah, how can I feed these to you in a way? Joel Embiid, 11.5 rebounds.
That's about fair. I would say of the ones you only mentioned 3 so far,
and Maxey 2.5 3-pointers. You can only pick a player once in these props. Though.
Yeah, I would go Maxey over points to be the one I like the most of what we said so far.
All right. Joel Embiid, interestingly enough, is only averaging 10 rebounds per 36 this season. Definitely a low. His 2 years ago and 3 years ago, he was averaging closer to 14. Last year, it was 12. So his rebounding has come down. His scoring is still there. But just be careful on some of these rebounding props here. Let's look and see. Anybody on the Terry Rozier. Terry Rozier over under 20.5 points. NBA. These will all be NBA points. They don't have fantasy points.
Let's see. So you were asking me, it was Terry Rozier.
Scary Terry.
And 20.5 was the mark?
Yes.
I'm going to have a slight lean towards the under. I think that one thing that changed with him over the course of the day, by the way, Derek White is going to start again in place of Marcus Smart, is Gordon Hayward is back. And I think that should lower the projection on Terry Rozier by about a point or so. And it looks like that's not adjusted for that. So slight lean towards the under on Rozier. And that's also a really difficult matchup. This Hornets team sucks right now. There's some potential blowout risk going up against Cleveland. They have one of the best defenses in the NBA. So a little bit of lean towards the under, and that game locks in 27 minutes.
All right. Let's see if I can find. Oh, let's look at Indiana. Indiana, Tyrese Halliburton, 19.5 points or 10.5 assists. Going against Houston there.
Read me. What was
Tyrese Halliburton, 19.5 points, 10.5 assists are his 2 props that are available. I like the over on assists.
19. I do like the over on the assists as well. That should be a ridiculously high scoring game. So that game, the total is now at 236.5. The only game that's really close to that is 234.5 in the Golden State and New York game. Other than that, there's not another game on the slate that ended with a total over 230. There should be a lot of possessions in that game. And Halliburton has just been ridiculous this year. So the scoring's been there, the assist. I saw a stat the other day. He's shooting, I think it's 46% from 3 this year on pull-up threes. And he only takes the most difficult shots. Like he's taking like spinning, pirouetting, sidestepping threes. He's hitting 46% of them. That's pretty crazy.
Does he say Dame time after those shots? That's the question.
I think after he hits him, he just says game blouses and then he floats away.
All right. Wrapping up our no house advantage discussion, you can play your player prop cards of 2, 3, 4, or 5. You do have to get all answers right. If you pick 2, get them both right, you double your money. If you get 3, it's 2.5x. 3 is 5x. 4 is 11x, and all 5 is 21x, highest payout in the industry. Again, you can also go through the link here and make your deposit. That deposit bonus counts for the versus contests as much as we do in the peer versus peer. Okay, so we have a moment to breathe here just a little bit. You said I didn't do obviously FanDuel. I'm going to look at Yahoo. Do you want to pull up one of the DK contests? Let's look at some Miami ownership here.
Yep, that's what I'm pulling up right
I've got Yahoo up real quick, so I'll just throw it out there. This is in their large field, $5, 35% Kyle Lowry, 31% Martin, 40% Jovic, 28% Strus. Those were the 4 I played.
Yeah, so
I can't download CSVs there, so.
Some of the players on Miami, Lowry 42% owned, Martin is 46%, Jovic 63%, Strus 30%. Highsmith ended up being only 21%, even though he's starting. So I'm kind of surprised. I mean, they're still all fairly popular. I'd say the one I'm most surprised by is that there is not more ownership going to Strus.
So I'm sorry, none of them got over 50%, right? On DK?
No, yeah, Jovic is well over 50%.
Okay. I'm just wanted to refresh and look at where our projections ended up, because sometimes on situations like this, it's really hard to project. So we ended up with 52 on Jovic, 44 on Martin, 42 on Lowry, 40 on Bones. Oh, Bones Allen's not going to be locked yet.
Yeah, he is 63% owned on DK, and Martin's 46%. So not quite over, but close to 50 for Martin. Jovic ended up going well over though. And Kane also 22% owned over on DK.
So Tex is saying in the Yahoo free roll, their Friday weekly free roll, that's a season-long contest. He says none of the Heat guys are double digits. Highest owned is Strus at 9.2. So that's interesting. That's a kind of a fun contest to look at as well, because nobody really gets over 10 or 15%, even when you get these smash type spots of the high end players. It's just because there's enough casuals that are just making one lineup or forgetting to put stuff in, etc. That nobody really seems to crest over 20-30%. It's kind of fun to play that. Super chat here, we're looking at Orlando, I am guessing. Wagner, Porter, Buddy Hield.
Michael Porter for me.
Most fantasy points. Okay, no, that definitely makes sense. Sorry, I was stuck on Buddy Hield because Josh was in Discord making some comments about the punchline of the joke was not playing a famous college coach's kid I'm blanking on the
McDermott.
The guy who used to coach not Nick Nurse, the guy who coached before Nick Nurse, Dwayne Casey. No, the answer is Buddy Boeheim, who's hanging on to a Detroit roster spot, but really not playing much for there. So yeah, that was kind of a funny joke. So I said nobody could accuse him of playing favorites. See, Syracuse, Buddy Boeheim. So this made me laugh. Dad jokes.
Did Jim Boeheim retire?
No, he's still coaching. He's shit. His other kids playing for him too.
All right, I don't know.
Or his nephew. I forget if it's his kid or his nephew. It's college sports. All I do is I download Matt Gajewski's projections, put them into my optimizer of choice, which happens to be Fantasy Cruncher. I have my settings all selected. I upload, and then money ends up in my account. It's like DFS was in 2012, except we didn't have optimizers back then. It's early in the season. It's a rare air. This is the college sports are fun to take advantage of.
What's here's what did you think of when they first came out? Optimizers, the ability to upload CSVs. What was your impression of it when it first became a thing?
So I thought at that point. I started using Fantasy Cruncher, I want to say 7 years ago. I met them, Dave, the founder, at some industry event, and he gave me Oreo used to work there for a longtime DFS gamer. He was there. They gave me a free user account so I could do some beta testing for them, because they're like, oh, you've done this. You're even then I was the old guy 7 years ago. Tell us what you think. Is this intuitive, etc.? So I thought it was pretty neat. At that time, there were a couple gamers that had bought or created or had somebody program their own stuff for them, and they just had some tremendous advantages. This kind of leveled the playing field somewhat. I think it came out right when you could still do 500 entries. It was before it went down to 150. I think it just reeled in some of the top end gamers. Also, back then there weren't like everything was like $1 back then. So like I was only playing 100 or 150, 150, 200, 300 lineups because I only like to play like $300 or $400 a day. So I was not doing the full mass multi-entry, and I was still dabbling in cash games at that point. For me, it was I had tried to build out a solver in Excel This was way more flexible, way more efficient, faster, and you could do all sorts of cool stuff. And they kept rolling out new features. Then there was a proliferation of these types of products on the market. I think there's about 6 or 7 of them out there that are pretty decent. I just keep using this one because I'm the most familiar with it, but I've tried 3 or 4 of the others. They all do similar things. You just have to get used to the interfaces or how to do stuff. But I think it helped level the playing field somewhat, because it was getting to the point where it was disgusting, that you didn't have a chance to do anything, because you couldn't get that. If you built out a bunch of lineups, you couldn't do the late swap fast enough. You could only global swap. And it was,
I remember because there was a point in time where some players had them, some didn't. And I remember that was something that really helped elevate Sahil at the time, Max Dullery.
Yes.
I remember
he was one of the first that had him. Orlando Magic. There was a Magic.
I can't remember who. There was some starting lineup change that happened.
I think it was Kyle O'Quinn or something.
And he ended up with 100% of that player when it happened like 2 minutes before. And it was somebody who, if anybody else had the ability to switch, they would have just totally smashed. And it was just something that nobody else would have been able to.
Caleb saying it was Channing Frye. Yeah, I think it was. I swear to God, it was somebody from Orlando.
It might have been. I think that does make sense. It was Channing Frye starting as a backup.
Throwing out Kyle O'Quinn. He probably wasn't even playing.
Yeah, and then Channing Frye went out and he scored. He was like the min price 3,000, and he put up like 40 fantasy points at 2% ownership.
I think that was the night he had like 70 of the top 100 in whatever the biggest contest was. It was just something like a rare moment in time. And the uproar on DFS Twitter wasn't quite there, but the RG message boards back when they used to have them.
Those message boards, I remember I used to go on them at work also just to see what people were posting about. And there was always weird scandals and whatnot going on. By the way, Heat up 8-2 so far.
Should I hedge out of my bet? My $20, my unit bet?
No. Hold on to your unit there, EMac. Five points in a board. 5 points in a board in 2 minutes for Jovic. Now we all played him a whole bunch. This is not going to be, Jovic is not going to be what makes or breaks the slate for us.
Yes.
We all played
that
him.
is true. That is true. Let's see. Producer Ty, do you want to just, we've got a few minutes left, do you want to show the boom bust tool? We can show it for DK. Lewis Park has asked for that. I think that's a good tool to show here. Again, we have 16 minutes till the next 2 games lock. So you want to be careful. Then everything's from 8 o'clock on. If you guys are dabbling in NHL, it randomly, because they said, hey, NBA, we can do it to 2. They're having one 10:30 game tonight or something. Never seen either sport do this, and then back-to-back nights, 10 o'clock main slate starts. So let's go pull up the boom bust tool. So I used to use this a lot. I've sort of changed the way I build out my fantasy cruncher rules. So I don't utilize the boom bust quite as much. I'm allowing more randomness now that they have the more evenly distributed bell curve that you can get on the randomness. I have not used the boom bust quite as much. Is that something that you look at a fair amount? Are you looking more from a leverage standpoint, or do you like the boom bust percentages?
Yeah. So where something like that would make more of a difference for me is on a lot of the smaller slates where I could really take more time to build out my lineups. Here's what happens on the big slates though. When I have the time to look at it, super valuable. When we get a slate where it's like, hey, players getting ruled out 2 minutes before lock, it's just, can I get the guys into my lineups that are actually playing, the guys who are starting? Like I would love to take the time and meticulously build out all my NBA DFS lineups. It's hard to do that sometimes. For certain 3, 4, 5 game slates, it is the perfect tool. But for a day like today where it's 11 games, like I don't know who the hell is going to be starting for the Heat, and then everybody's out. It's just trying to make sure that I have players in my lineups that project really well on a points per dollar basis. But on, like I was saying before, some of the smaller slates, stuff like last night. Or
NFL, MLB,
NFL,
very
NFL
useful for that.
I use it a ton for NFL. So even last night, it was something where Adam and I were looking at it on Live before all of the Spurs stuff also went to shit a couple minutes before the slate started. But Isaiah Roby was somebody who already looked like a really good contrarian option, the boom bust tool, prior to the Spurs news coming out. He was somebody Adam and I both liked for that purpose. And then one thing that helped us, we were already on him. And then Keldon Johnson ended up getting ruled out. And then Roby ended up looking even better for us, and he was only 5% owned last night. So Roby was one of the better tournament plays this slate.
Gotcha. A couple late super chats here. We've got FanDuel, SGA, and Tucker. I don't know if that's Taylor Horton or PJ.
PJ.
Okay, versus Halliburton and MPJ.
Halliburton and Michael Porter Jr.
Yep.
By the
as soon as I saw that second pairing, I'm like, it's going to be the answer. Go ahead. Sorry.
By the way, after you're asking me how you should handle your unit, the Wizards. Well, that's what you asked me. The Wizards went on a 12-0 run as soon as you were considering letting go of it.
12 inches of, just like Snow Informer. Yeah. Good album.
EMac was going to bail on his unit, and look at what happened.
All right. Paul says, remember the day Curry was 1,500 on Draft Street, like way back, like 2012. Normally he was 1,600 or 19,000, 16,000 or 19,000. He was only 44% owned. I actually do remember that day. The percentage is about where he was proportionally. It was they dropped a zero off of his salary. He was hurt. And he was questionable. So internet reporting was so bad then, and the beats weren't even on. The beat reporters weren't even really on Twitter at all. And the thing was, do you play him or not? And so there was just major discussions about what you should do. And then if you played him, he ended up having, I remember, a really good night, probably 40 or 50 fantasy points. Scoring was different then as well. They didn't quite put it on steroids like they do now. But basically, he had the equivalent of like a 55 fantasy point in today's things at a tenth of his price. So, much like Kike Hernandez on FanDuel a couple years ago, where Kike was tweeting about, hey, put me in the lineup, coach. I'm cheap on FanDuel.
The draft street line, you got negative points for missed shots, right?
Yes.
Wasn't that
and free throws?
So Draft Street had negative points for missed field goals and missed free throws. And then for hitters, they had negative points when you made an out, and like super negative points if the hitter struck out. So like you could have hitters that went like 0 for 4 and would score like -5 fantasy points.
It was a thinking person's game. And they also had a $1 million salary cap, and they went out to like actual 10. So like, 1,110 would be their salary. Fantasy Feud took it one step further. They took it out to the actual dollar. So if you ever zeroed out your salary when you were in hand, because it's back in the hand building, you're like, oh my God, I have to play this. It's kismet that this worked out, that I zeroed out my salary. So
this was when I was in college, if I'm not mistaken. So I was barely playing DFS then. I started at the first site I deposited to was FanDuel. And it was something where like I'd play for $1 a night, and it was something for me to pay attention to while I was studying for tests or writing a paper. It was like a distraction, be like, okay, I can look at this and see what my players are doing. And started on FanDuel. I think I also played a little bit on Draft Street then, but a lot of those initial sites where, can you imagine if you could be somebody who's only been playing DFS for a month now, and you probably have infinitely more information than the best players of 12 years ago.
Yeah. It was just absolutely nuts. Malcar has a question: Terry Rozier or Tyrese Maxey?
Tyrese Maxey. All
right. They say Greg seems to not know the history. Greg wasn't around from the super duper beginning. I first played. I got to it after it had been around for a year or two. I think Roto Grinders had been around for 6 months. Maybe DraftKings did not even exist when I started playing, I guess you would have been similar with Draft Street, because that DraftKings didn't buy them out until like the third year of their existence. But I started in June 2011, and was like, well, I thought they were money laundering.
Yeah. So here's part of the issue too. You started playing then. I was 20 years old at that point in time, and I was in college. I wasn't. Even then, so when I started playing DFS was my junior year, I believe, of college. And it was either tail end of junior and then end of senior. I remember the first time I won a tournament for $1,000. I thought it was the most insane thing ever.
Yeah, those were always fun. Hit that like button. You still got about 1,400 of you in there. I forgot to mention that earlier. I'm sure Josh will rebuke me later. He probably won't, because I'm sure he's not watching the show, but
No,
that would be nice if you could do that for us. We're starting off again tomorrow. We got a full slate. There's early MMA contests. We have NHL. We have the NBA strategy show. I know that one's at 10. We've got the couple of NFL shows. I know you're doing one with most likely with Neil Orfield. That's usually your guys' Saturday pairing on that. We're going to have NBA live before lock, as well as the deeper dive on Saturday. We've got all sorts of content coming for you. Hit that subscribe button on our little YouTube channel here. We'll probably have about 9 live hours of DFS with a good couple dozen videos on demand across our various channels. It's pretty crazy. You got the NFL show tomorrow, right?
Yeah, I've got the NFL show tomorrow. I'm on the NBA live before lock. So the usual stuff for me on a Saturday.
Joseph Ramirez, he wins chat, says, like the video for Josh not being on here. Absolutely. I'm going to give her my thumbs up right there. 577. I was number 577. Can't believe I didn't like the video. I usually like it right away.
Is that like the first thing you do of the day? You look at your schedule and see what show you're on and like it immediately?
No.
Oh. when do you like it? When you just pull it up?
Usually when I open it up, this is usually the first thing I do of any show that I turn on.
Same. So any show I'm on, or if I'm hosting the show or going to be the analyst and I'm popping out the chat, that's also when I just click that like button. One thing I don't like though, the new Outlook, I don't even know what it's called, but the new visual on YouTube when you go in, it used to be really
I can't find anything.
It used to be really apparent if you would click the thumbs up or not. It's not as easy to tell now.
It's not as easy to tell. Sometimes I can't remember if it's on different browser. Oh no, it's on this browser. Like if you click it now, it pops up in red. If you go to the landing page of your favorite channels, like Stokastic, sometimes it's a little tricky to find the videos you want. I've learned that you got to click on the recently or the live videos, because it usually just defaults to upload. We also do a pretty good job of curating our playlists, so you can find your favorite shows a little more easily there. But I'm not a fan with how they made the changes on that. It's like they hid some of the information. I don't mind when websites go through changes and make updates or whatever. I'm not yelling at the clouds too much, but now it's like, now I can't see stuff that was used to be just very apparent right here. And now it's like, I can't even tell if the channel's broadcasting or not, because sometimes it has a little dot when it's live, and sometimes it still has a little dot when it's not live. It's like, yeah, you guys made it worse.
Yeah.
Is Eric suspended?
Yes, Eric is suspended, but I believe he's supposed to be back on Monday, and then he's out of the doghouse again.
He was wearing a beret, and only a beret. No, not a beret, but a beret, and was dancing around the Eiffel Tower. And there was an international incident, and Stokastic needed to provide some distance between themselves.
Yeah, he went to Paris and insisted on sitting on the Eiffel Tower. They told him, you're not allowed to do that. He's like, listen, I flew all the way here, halfway across the world. I'm sitting on the Eiffel Tower. He's suspended.
Out of respect for Eric, though, was it a raspberry beret? And did he find it at a secondhand store?
Well played, Tyler. Well played. I'll dab 4 times.
Oh my God, you're a million years old.
Yes. Super chat here. Caso Da Vinci says Cameron Payne, Tatum, and Anthony Davis is 3v3. So Tatum, Payne, Davis, Brooks, Giannis, Embiid on FanDuel. I'd go with the second.
Okay, so Payne, Tatum, and Davis, or Brooks. It's Brooks, Giannis, and Embiid.
Perfect. Stephen Leibowitz says he cannot unsee that. All right. Sitting on the Eiffel Tower. Well, he climbed up to the very Seinfeld.
No. He got dropped on by a crane. They lifted him up by request. He wanted to be dropped by about 30 feet above. They lifted him up and then they just let him go and fell right on it.
Yikes.
Hey, whatever he wants.
All right, what do we got here? 5 minutes to go. This was a fun show. This is a good time. So thank you, everybody. See somebody saying I play an EMac in the dime contest all the time. Yeah, I got to get my Onyx tiers on DK. So I'm playing all the sports. It's a lot of fun. We get all the Stokastic projections here. I will say I play NHL every day, and this is my 4th season. I don't know a ton about it. I've picked up a lot along the way, but that's something I'm able to play with all of our tools at the same time as NBA Lock. It's very helpful. I do like the college sports as well. There does seem to be a little bit of an edge. I like to grind out the leagues, the smaller contest size, because the payouts aren't completely egregious. I was trying to do this on FanDuel. Poor Terry had to follow, T McBee had to follow along with me. I was trying to get 150 lineups into $1 leagues over there. You literally have to start doing it on Monday before you can get enough of them there. But I wanted to see if those payouts, because you get $25 for winning 100 or 110 person league. So that 1% outcome is way different than a 1% outcome in the gigantic contest that gets you 4x or 5x, but it's just too hard to get enough lineups in there. But so that was a fun thing.
Was it worthwhile or no?
No, it took too much time.
Yeah.
So I've stopped doing that. But it was an interesting test. And then I just would build out 150. But I do that on DraftKings, where I go into the quarter and the dollar contest, the 20 maxes, because you can, a lot of times in football, you can enter, they have enough 20 maxes that you could build out 100 lineups in the 20 max, treat that as a GPP portfolio. And then the payout is usually reasonable enough that it's not like the, oh dear God, if I don't get first, if I don't get 10th, I'm losing money in this contest kind of payouts. So,
by the way, we just got the starting lineup for the Bucks. Drew Holiday is not starting. He's coming off the bench. I assume that he's still going to play today, but there's no need to play him for DFS purposes. Different from the Keldon Johnson situation yesterday. I think they're doing this to limit his minutes. We've seen them do this with Drew Holiday in the past, but there was no reason to play him in DFS today anyway.
Yep, Javon Carter remains starting in his place. Let's see. Am I still playing League of Legends? No, I only do the stuff when we have crowns on DK associated with it, and then I will play any of the tertiary or lower sports just so I can get these. Hey, I'm just saying, right? I've put in about $110 on college basketball over 11 days, and I've got more crowns there, like 3,300 compared to like 2,000 crowns in NFL. For now, we're in week 11, and I've probably spent $8,000. You got to allocate those resources where they're going to get you some more bang for your buck. And I'm closing in on my 1 million lifetime entry fees. So I probably can make it through one more sports season of everything before I will be off and running on Yahoo or FanDuel. But that's why I was testing out FanDuel. I wanted to try some different things there. So.
Gotcha. Are you going to, cause I know I have to do it the old fashioned way though, EMac. I have to spend the money. I can't game all the crown systems to get my tier status. But did you hit Onyx for next year?
I will. It's just a matter of claiming them. I'll wait. This is how much of a nit I am. I will wait until December to claim those crowns, so I get the residual crowns on them in the next calendar year. But right now I have 1.78 million crowns that I have not used. I have, before I get to Onyx, I was going to send a screenshot to
8 million unused crowns.
1.8 million unused crowns.
Okay. I thought
I've got
8 million. I was like, that's a
shit. No, that would, yeah. I was trying to get to 2 million, and then I'll use them for something. I need 98,000 to get to Onyx. I have about 200,000 unclaimed in MLB and NASCAR, so I'm waiting for those to.
By the way, here's what you should spend it on. I know this is what Adam did last year. So next Friday, there's probably going to be Black Friday sales.
Yes.
And Adam furnished like his entire apartment with his crowns last year.
So yeah, how many TVs is that? It's a lot of TV. I don't need that. We have one TV. That's all we need here. Well, I guess technically we have two. We just don't ever watch the other one. There's only two of us. I live in an obnoxious McMansion house, 5 bedrooms for 2 of us and a 15-pound dog. It's a bit much. Driving my 4th ever car in my life, but I have a big old effing house. There are just some things, Greg. There are just some things.
By the way, people are very impressed. By the way, we've made it to the end of the show here. People are very impressed with your crowns. I just want you to know. I have.
No, Greg, I think I've trolled you with you or Lindquist. I was trolling with screenshots of them. Yeah, I don't make it up. I'm going to tweet it out when I get to 2 million, so you guys will see it.
Yeah, you have more than I have 1.1 million crowns right now, so you have more than I do.
Yeah. I've been they're asked how long did it take you to get there? Probably through. I don't think I've claimed them. Every now and then I click on the wrong button and I enter them into contests, but I think I haven't really claimed them for 3 years. No, it's actually 2.5 because it was whenever we got sports betting. Because once I realized that it was way easier to claim them on the sports betting side than it is on the DFS side, I figured I'd just collect them and start using them on the sports betting. Because I'll use them in bigger chunks there than I will for futzing around on the DFS games. EMac needs to downsize. Could he buy a condo in a rural state with my crowns? Not quite. I'd have to go out to West Virginia, on the border of West Virginia. Let's see, 1.7 million crowns. That's probably, was that like $5,000? That might be a down payment on a double wide trailer or something, I guess. So maybe. Anything else? EMac probably bought his house for $27,000 in 1930. Close. First job I ever had out of college. Want to guess what my salary was? My annual salary?
I'm going to guess that you got paid in cheese sandwiches.
Very close. Hourly wage back then was $3.85 an hour. My annual salary was $20,400. So I got $1,700 a month as an accountant. That's like not even a week's pay now, which is funny, but good time value of money, inflation. It's real. It happens. All right. We're 3 minutes over. Hat tip to No House Advantage. We appreciate that. Jorge Jacome has one more. Best small forward 4,900 or below on DK, single entry.
Okay, 4,900 or below. Caleb Martin is already locked, or else he would have been the answer. That is KJ Martin Jr. for me.
All right.
I said I realized that's redundant because I was reading how its name is. It's KJ Martin. I said basically KJ Martin. I said Kevin Jr. Martin Jr. So KJ Martin.
Sotex 375 hourly wage when he started. El Negro Loco News God 450, and you'll love this one. Stephen Leibowitz. He's borrowing your joke. Most male escorts got paid more than that back then. Depended which bridge you were working under.
Yeah, well, I know that EMac. I know you've told me the Queensboro Bridge was always the hot spot for you, but listen, different people do different businesses better elsewhere.
Yes, indeed. So we've now come full circle talking about my units and we'll just leave it at that. You can follow us at Stokastic_COM on Twitter for as long as it lasts. You can find Greg over at Greg Ehrenberg on, is it DFS? No, it's just Greg Ehrenberg, right?
Nope, it's G Ehrenberg DFS. But
G Ehrenberg DFS. I was having trouble spelling your last name.
If anybody's still here, they're a fan of us and they're already following us on Twitter.
Well, perfect. There we go. So you guys already know where I am. With that, gamers, good luck.